Hey guys, and welcome to the return of the EVNT Major League. Here we are in the winter of 2017. We have some fantastic matches for you tonight, even better, hopefully, than the incredible matches that were last night in the Minors League. We are back once again with four old faces, four new faces who qualified from last season to see what we can have going on. To briefly cover the format for the tournament is we have 8 teams in a round robin stage. They're all going to play each other, and then the points will be awarded as to their wins, losses, draws, and also the number of ships they managed to kill and or lose. Each team will be choosing one frigate, one destroyer, one cruiser, one battle cruiser, and one battleship in order to fight in glorious space combat, and with a special banning stage that I'm sure you're all familiar with. I'm joined this evening by some fantastic commentators. We have the man of the hour, Elise Randolph, running the show, but we also have Jake Meister, Sutonia. We have, I believe, Rain as well as coming in, and we have Jintan. I don't think I've forgotten anyone, have I? Apparently not. Apparently I can't hear anyone talking to me. So, let's move on. We have our first match coming up here. This is going to be the other team going up against Exodunks. Now, the other team is the team that, in fact, won last season without dropping a single game, headed up by Hoodie Mafia, an absolute force to contend with in the league scene. They're going up against Exodunks, and Exodunks winning the minors. So we have the battle of the two winners. Now, we have Sutonia here. Sutonia, you've been updating our ship list for this tournament. Do you want to give us a little rundown of the main changes that you've made since last season?
So the main things that have changed are a lot of the Lifeblood ships, the ships that got buffed in this expansion, like the Omen, Arbitrator, and Bellicose were buffed up slightly. And of course, the Rifter and the Dragoon had some minor changes to them, although that was before because Svanadome was running Lifeblood for the EVNT Cup. Also, a few other changes to battleships. We've reworked the Dominix to an armor utility kind of brawler between the Armageddon and the Hyperion. The Hyperion got nerfed slightly. We nerfed the Scorpion slightly too, and we nerfed the Griffin, and we also boosted the Raven slightly too.
Awesome. So we have the teams coming on grid. Just 3 minutes. We have a small issue, I believe, with the other team having a fitting problem, but no worries. We'll let them take their time. Get ready to come on in. So we have made a few changes in that we have allowed faction cruisers, I believe. That's not pirate faction, but navy faction cruisers. Have these seemed to be popular? I believe from what I've heard that they've not been doing so well, Sutonia.
No, we saw 4 of them fielded. We actually saw 5 of them fielded in the EVNT Cup. Well, actually, sorry, it's 4. We saw 3 Navy Augurers and 1 Sabbath Fleet issue, and they lost every single game they were fielded in, so not quite successful so far. They have been slightly buffed. They did have Tech 1 rigs before, they got boosted up to Tech 2 rigs, but I still think they're going to be pretty rare to see. However, we have been seeing a lot more Tech 2 logistic frigates the previous day by the Niner League teams. I think they were 3 fielded, so the better teams, I think, definitely appreciate the Tech 2 logistic frigates.
So there's some notes from the EVNT Cup, which is basically the same rule set as we're running, as Sutonia said. There's quite a lot of ECM favor been going on. People have been choosing to bring a lot of ECM ships, obviously in a smaller man format, 5v5, the stronger and stronger and stronger jams get. Logi frigates have been very dicey. Hyperions are either picked or banned. People are very much favoring the Hyperion. The Scythe has the best win rate as a Logi, and the Abaddon and the Apocalypse as the MR battleships are still flying very strong. Is it possible to bring up the bans for our first match? Fantastic. Jake, Sutonia, as you're running us Jake and Jintan, even, as you're running us through this match, do you want to tell us a little bit about the bans that have gone on?
Yeah, this ban we see here right away is the Scorpion from the other team, and that's something that's been huge throughout the EVNT Cup. We in fact saw that paired with the Hurricane be the winning team comp that I can't remember who won the EVNT Cup used to take the final match, and it's proved to be super, super powerful in this small format. Obviously, it's got a lot of jams on it, and, you know, you can take out reliably 2 ships with that thing.
Yeah, and it does appear as well that because they've banned the Blackbird, Exodunks really aren't wanting to go up against any kind of ECM comp. I mean, they have picked a Griffin themselves, which probably says a lot about their mindset there, but as I believe Apothecary touched on earlier, ECM has been rather powerful, so it'll be interesting to see whether they're able to pull it off.
Yeah, the draft in general, though, is really good, especially from the Exodunks team. I love that three support core there of Vigil, Talwar, Scythe, and then banning away the Hyperion. They've got so much range to play with in this comp. If they come at range and they work, their range advantage well, I think they're in with a massive shot here.
And I do also quite like the other team's picks here because the Prophecy, the Apocalypse, and the Dragoon all coming in with huge amounts of EHP. As you said, as long as they're able to keep themselves away and mitigate damage for a while, that Griffin should be able to do work while they pick off at Exodunks.
Well, guys, you have heard about the bans. Let's get straight into the match with the first match of the Major League for Eventy here in the winter season of 2017. It is the two winning teams from the Majors and Minors of last season, the other team versus the Exodunks.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the arena. I'm here with my fellow commentator, Jake Meister, and we are already in the 30-second countdown. Why don't you talk us through the opening positions here, Jake, and what do you think the signals for the match?
Yeah, so I quite like the choice here to bring the Prophecy in quite close to the beacon. I mean, the Roke or piloted by Wasa QC, is going to be able to move in and apply damage, hopefully, but they've also brought the Dragoon in, which can probably screen him off. Otherwise, I think keeping the Vigil, the Scythe, the Ferox all at range to play on their range advantage there is going to favour them in the early game. But it'll be interesting to see whether that Apocalypse can still project out well.
There we go. We see the info boosts there. The info boosts there from the Ferox, and these two teams are scattering around each other, just fighting for position. They both came in at a 90-degree angle, so perhaps a little closer than they would have liked. And we're seeing massive damage put on the Griffin of Kelon. They're trying to get that off as fast as possible, but massive pre-reps from Latronicus in the Execura, really proving his worth there, keeping it up in a low structure, whereas it looks like damage is being placed on the Talwar of Havak, trying to stop that damage onto the Griffin and keep him alive. And then we see trades back onto the Dragoon.
It does appear now, though, that the Griffin has got a little cloud of maintenance bots around it, so hopefully he's going to be holding a bit better now. The Dragoon, with its massive amount of buffer there, really should have
the Griffin there, no
trouble.
reps, and down immediately. One concentrated volley there. It looked like the Talwar and the Ferox just hit right at the same time, and that Griffin had no buffer to keep it up.
Yeah, we see now that they're putting all of the damage of that Rogue and Ferox onto that Dragoon, but with the massive amount of buffer that the Dragoon's running at the moment, it doesn't look like they're going to be able to alpha through in the same way that they took out Kellan Darklight's Griffin.
Still, the Apocalypse here is a really hard counter to the Scythe. That's something we've seen in a lot of previous matches, and yet it looks like the red team here, the other team, hasn't started to focus on it, instead preferring to try and shoot through this Talwar. And it's just not working for them. They need to adjust their strategy as soon as they can.
It does look like now that the Apocalypse is starting to try and apply damage onto the Scythe, but with the speed it's running and the low signature radius it has, it really doesn't... Oh, that being said, the Rogue and the Apocalypse going toe-to-toe now. The Rogue having probably marginally higher DPS, but even still, it'll be interesting to see whether the Scythe being at range will be able to keep it up long enough.
Yeah, we can see there the Prophecy right behind him. He's going to be trying to provide some sort of screening tackle. Same with the Dragoon. In fact, we can see this Dragoon there moving in on that Ferox, trying to cut him off so that he can't apply his damage to that Apocalypse and let the Prophecy and the APOC work on that Rogue. But it's not doing much. You can see just how little that shield bar is moving on the Rogue, whereas this Apocalypse is half armor already. Dragoon's low as well.
Yeah, it seems like an odd choice to be repping the Dragoon at this point. The Apocalypse dropping now into about 40% armor, and the Execra, I imagine, not wanting to move close enough to get tackled, doesn't seem to be applying any reps onto the Apocalypse of Zuko.
There we see the local tank on the APOC there working wonders, keeping him alive as we see some damage start to trickle onto the Scythe again. This seems like it might have been a play to try and pull the rep drones away from the Scythe, but those things move so fast. This is really dangerous. Look how low that Dragoon is going. 20% armor there. Real bad. Oh, but just caught again by Electronicus. He's playing with fire here.
Yeah, the Dragoon for a while there appeared to be moving in, but he's turned around now and looks to be burning out potentially towards the Vigil at the moment. But no, he's way out there now, so I'd like to think he'll be able to hold. That being said, the Apocalypse now of Zuko dropping into lower and lower armor, that active tank not able to keep him up without the assistance of his Execra.
Yeah, he might be out of charges. I believe they have an Ansil tank on the APOC. So that Execra needs to move in and start getting reps on that APOC, but he's so far away. It looks like they're about 60 kilometers away from each other. Never mind, close to 30.
Just landing now, but you are right in thinking the Apocalypse runs an ancillary repper there, but I mean, at this point, what do you do? Do you trade your Dragoon and hope to heap the Apocalypse up, or do you risk both and split your reps?
Really what I want to do is I want to keep that Dragoon alive. I want to get that Dragoon into an aggressive position on that scythe, start, dealing with it, because I can't win otherwise. The other team here has no routes to victory now that that Griffin is down, apart from killing that scythe, and it's not looking great for them right now. They can't hold any strong application on it.
That being said, though, it does look like both the Dragoon and the Apocalypse are pulling slithers of armor back. They're both up to about 40-50%
Look,
now.
the prophecy there of Muddy Hafia tackling down Wasakusi in the Roke, keeping him away from the Apocalypse so that his tank can last longer. That's a crucial play, but it's gonna leave the prophecy exposed, and here we see the damage start to be applied back to it. That was really critical, and is gonna give the other team a lot more time to play with here as they maneuver that Dragoon in. You can see he's about a quarter of the way across the field, looking towards that scythe, slowly burning an angle towards him.
Yeah, it does. The Apocalypse is pretty much burning straight at the scythe right now, and I mean, there's nothing really stopping him. I'm questioning now why the Talwar or the Vigil probably wouldn't try to screen and keep him away. That being said, their tackling ability is minimal. This scythe taking negligible amounts of damage at the range he's at currently, and as long as he can avoid flying to the edge of glory, then he should be absolutely fine with the amount of damage he's taking currently.
We can see here Sarek in the Dragoon taking tons of damage. Looks like that Ferox had a really good line on him, and he's using that to just take him out of the field here. I don't think he's going to be able to survive that. Oh no, again, great reps here from the Execra, keeping him up. This is going to make it a tough one.
If that Dragoon goes down, I don't see how they're going to be able to pull this. They've got no ability to hold that rock away from
Look how low that scythe is, though. I would trade a Dragoon for half the shields on the scythe any day of the week. And this Dragoon is just living by a thread here. The reps are just about as much as it can take. Chipping structure with every volley from this team.
That being said, the Dragoon is pretty much on top of the Execra right now, so I don't see them being able to break it. He is teetering on low armor, but at that close to the Execra, it doesn't look like he has any maintenance bots right now, so him moving away is probably a risky move at this point, but I suppose...
Prophecy taking a ton of damage here. Electronicus here splitting his reps between the two teammates that are 20% armor. He's been working overtime this match, keeping people alive in 20% armor simultaneously throughout this entire match. He's not dropping that ball. He probably feels bad about letting his Griffin die earlier and is making up for it so well, whereas Mr. Black, I can't pronounce that word, is in 20% shield, no rep bots on him. That scythe is going down. He needs to pull range and pull range fast without giving that Apocalypse shots on him, and he's not doing it well.
But that being said, Latronicus needs to get reps on Muddy Hafia here, otherwise the Roke's going to be untackled, and Scythe very slowly climbing with his shield right now, but I do question the choice of splitting the damage between the Roke and the Scythe right now. I feel like they need to be focusing one or the other if they have any chance of breaking one. Oh, the Dragoon now, saying that.
No, the Dragoon finally goes down. Probably tanked close to 20,000 DPS in this match. An absolute legend of a pilot and a logistic support, and that prophecy is going down as well. He's got the 4 full reppers on him, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. That rock does a hell of a lot of damage. He's grappled. Basically, that rock is just docking with the prophecy, getting the full bore of blasters on him and just hoping to God it dies.
And without any kind of piloting error by Mr. Black at the Scythe here, I don't see them being able to break him in the next 2.5 minutes. His shields are steadily climbing back up. There are a smattering of shield maintenance bots darting around the field at the moment, but he does seem to be stabilizing. The Apocalypse tracking disrupted, most likely contributing to the lack of damage on him at the moment, and the Rock, again, climbing back up to a nice, comfortable amount of shields.
Alright, so with 2 minutes left in this match, the other team needs to make a play. They can't catch that Scythe. They've proven that now a couple of times. They need to turn on this Ferox that's right out of position. If they get that Ferox down, I believe that would keep them in the match, as a battlecruiser is more points than a Griffin and a Destroyer.
Yes, correct. It's 6 points to 11. That being said, though, the Prophecy is going to be of minimal help in that endeavor. It's still hard tackled by the Roke of Wassa QC, and I don't know whether they are actually going to be able to catch the Ferox without that Dragoon for tackle.
Yeah, they needed to... I don't know, maybe they can push back onto the Roke, but then the Scythe just pulls in and catches him easily. He's proven that he can survive through this so long. This is a real tough one.
The Prophecy now holding quite comfortably. He did dip into hull for a small period there, but he's actually regaining shields at the moment. I'm not sure. I feel like we're kind of at a stalemate here with only 1 minute left to go on the match. I don't foresee them breaking this rock or this Scythe. They're both holding quite comfortably.
I wouldn't even call this a stalemate. This is just great defensive play from Exodunks. You know, just playing keep away with this armor team, knowing they have the advantage in, you know, everything they need for this. They've got a faster team, they've got a lot of tackle, they've got a lot of screening, and they've got basically a ship to play with. They can throw a tower on something if shit gets hairy and just keep it there for 10-20 seconds, you know, 30 seconds on the match here, and it looks like the other team is going to win this, bar a boundary violation from Exodunks, which, as we all know, is very likely in a match of Eventi.
Yeah, with 20 seconds left to go, I don't foresee them being able to break any of these ships, but an amazing match regardless. One of the pilots at the moment of the Roke Wassa QC mentioning he may have possibly burnt out his blaster class weapons.
In that case, then his play here just makes even more sense. Realizing that he is a complete brick and just holding on to something that the enemy team needs and keeping it entertained for as long as possible. Yeah, great play all around though. Still, got to give a hand to the Executor of Latronicus, living, like, dangerously, but pulling out every advantage he could from that match.
And I do feel like if the Griffin had managed to survive there, he may have been able to turn the match in the favor with the jams that would have been present on that Scythe.
Yeah. Anyway, with that, let's pass it back to the studio and find out what our other co-presenters, I suppose, thought of the match.
Hello everyone, welcome back. It is the other team's first loss in over a year. They're brought about by Exodunks. These minor teams are coming up and fighting, showing that they have earned their space to play with the big boys indeed. What we saw there at the beginning of the match, it looked like with that Griffin falling so early that Exodunks was just going to win immediately, clean slate, easy, no problem, but then the match stalled. And when the match stalled, you know, Latronicus doing double duty. He's a fantastic logistics pilot. We've seen him in the Alliance tournament. We see him here now in Eventi, holding everyone up as best he could. And then that scythe got so incredibly low. It looked like they might just maybe flip it, turn it back, kill the scythe, and then be Logi versus no Logi and take the match. But no, the Exodunks teams rallied, pulled it all back together, played beautifully defensively, as Jin and Jake mentioned, and brought through the win. Now, it was not a clean sweep victory, in that the other team had ships left surviving, which means that it is a 3-point victory rather than a domination 4-point victory, which may come into play later in the tournament. Suetonia, Rain, I know both of you were watching that, interestingly, from the sidelines. Tell me your thoughts about our first match of the day.
I think what's really interesting here is we actually saw the Vigil being a great counter to that Griffin. With the 2 bonus target painters that the Vigil has, the Ferox was actually able to apply really well to that Griffin. And I think that's why it died so fast.
Yeah, I mean, what are your general thoughts? We saw kind of the archetypal shield versus armor setup. I noticed in that armor setup, it was a lot of ships that we generally consider on Tranquility to be quite low on DPS. Do you think that's a big thing that contributed to the loss of the match, that they just didn't have that much damage to put anywhere, apart from in the case of the APOC? Or, as you know, with the Talwar, the Ferox, more distributed team in terms of what DPS they could do?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a factor. The other team didn't have as much, I would say, reliable projected DPS, even though they have the Apocalypse. The drones from the Prophecy and the Dragoon are not really all that reliable at killing like fast frigates, like the Tower and Ferox are combined, especially when they have a Vigil target painter backing it up.
Yeah, thanks, Utonia. Jin, Jake, I know you both just commentated that match. Were there any particular moments that excited you guys that you thought were kind of beautiful and we can look back later to kind of learn how to do tournament piloting?
I think the piloting by the Dragoon, or the Serek and the Dragoon, was probably pretty amazing on his part. I mean, without him being able to live that long, I don't think they would have actually been in the fight at all. Up until, a couple of minutes from the end, it was anybody's match. They were getting through the Scythe and the Rope quite comfortably, but that Dragoon taking an amazing amount of damage basically meant that the Prophecy and the Execra were free to move around a bit more freely.
I want to actually give a shout out to Wasik QC in the Rogue, even though he did allegedly burn out his guns. He made a really good tactical call of just, holding onto that Prophecy and stopping it from basically being a factor in the match for 99% of it after, they'd killed the Griffin. It was a super good call for him.
But by the other token, I suppose the Prophecy was possibly thinking the same thing, keeping the Rogue away from the Apocalypse and allowing the Apocalypse to move around the arena freely. That meant the Apocalypse could chase down the Scythe, the Ferox, the Talwar, etc., and try and apply damage, albeit under heavy tracking disruption.
So we have our next match coming up in just a few minutes here. 4 minutes away, we have Team Johnny going up against Offline here. We should have the bans coming up on screen for you momentarily to look at what these teams are going to be bringing for us. Jake, Jintan, you're bringing us this match once again. Why don't you run us through the bans and the picks for the upcoming match?
Yeah, I want to say it was interesting to not see the Scorpion picked or banned in this draft. You can see here that both teams going for the Galante supremacy in that battleship slot, rather than using the Scorpion, which has proven to be so powerful in multiple previous matches. Instead, we see the Hyperion as well, which, and we really should mention this, the Hyperion is generally considered to be the best battleship. It's picked and banned in almost every single match, and here it seems like Team Offline has taken a strong advantage because of that. Using it as a shield battleship here.
Yeah, and I am rather surprised as well to not see the Hyperion pick for Team Johnny. I feel like that would probably work quite well for their setup. They have the Punisher, they have the Dragoon, they have the Prophecy, all ships that are naturally quite comfortable being up close and personal. But to use the Dominics, I mean, in the current meta for what we've seen flown over the last few weeks, it does seem like the Hyperion is quite a bit more powerful in most ways.
Yeah, there's some interesting bans there as well. Banning the Abaddon and the Tempest are both very interesting choices. I'm not entirely sure why you would do that, but I'm sure the captains here are, 17 levels deep in the meta, trying to get inside each other's head. So occasionally these bans are just things that have shown up in testing, and they've like, we just can't deal with this strategy yet. Let's just ban it out and see what happens on the day.
We've had our second Griffin and our second Dragoon pick for the day here. Suetonia, tell us a little about the Griffin and the Dragoon when you came to designing them and what you wanted pilots to be able to achieve with them. Obviously, we know the Griffin is an ECM ship. The Dragoon is usually a neuting ship with drones on TQ. But tell us a little bit about the Griffin and the Dragoon and why they might be so popular in our tournament.
So the Dragoon is very similar to the Algus. It's a bit tankier. Obviously, the Algus is very popular. The reason why the Algus and Dragoon are so popular is because they have a lot of flexibility with their drone bays. Not only do they have pretty decent tank and tackle, but they also can use those drone bays for like TD EWAR drones, perhaps, or most commonly remote rep bots, as well as some damage bots. The Griffin is also very popular because it's really strong for the frigate slot. And yeah, in specific design to the Griffin, it has one of each racial jammer, but it allows teams going up against it to counter it by picking like mono races.
So that is a thing we see in tournaments, especially in the Alliance tournament, where we kind of try and have all ships of one race coming into a tournament. That's kind of like something especially older teams have more inherent in their blood to when they're doing team design. Can you tell us a little bit more about why it's important to bring all of one race in some cases?
Okay, so whenever you bring an ECM ship, I mean, in the tournament, obviously in this tournament, it's fixed, the Griffin fit's fixed. In the Alliance tournament, for example, you're always gambling on jammers. You can try and maybe influence your jams based on the bans or based on what other teams bring, but generally you're always gambling, you're always trying to bring the right thing. The Griffin in this tournament specifically has one of each racial. So if you brawl all Galanti, that means the Mimitar, Kodari, and the Marjammers would not be very effective against the ships that you have. Especially if we take a look at the Team Johnny side, what they've done is they've gone with a Mar and a Galanti team. And most importantly, the Dominix, which is the battleship on their team, which is probably the most desirable ship to jam, aside from the Excura, is the same race as the Excura. So they kind of have to choose between jamming the battleship or jamming the Excura with that Galanti racial. And
Thanks,
also,
Suetonia. With that, I'm going to have to cut you off and send it to Jake and Jintan once again, as we are ready for our second match here today of the Major's first day winter season 2017 for the game between Team Johnny and Offline.
Okay, everybody. Up next, we have Offline versus Team Johnny. We've got the 30-second countdown just about to start. Jin, can you give us an overview of the locations of each team and why they may have come in at those?
Yeah, as you can see, both teams coming here completely opposite each other, 180 degrees. And it looks like the blue team here, which is Team Johnny, has dropped in at 30k on the beacon, whereas the red team here, which is Team Offline, have come in mostly at 50, but with their battleship ahead of them, that Hyperion aiming to rush the enemy and try and put that blaster damage down. Perhaps the red team here of Team Offline was scared of some sort of rush, but it doesn't look like Team Johnny have decided to do that. And here we see jams spread between the Prophecy and the Dominix. Very interesting.
Yeah, as well, we see the Scythe burning in. He appears to be going a bit of a tangent now, but he did close range slightly. The Oracle as well, not a ship I would traditionally think would be burning closer to the center of the arena, is hugging right behind the Hyperion of Pandy, excuse me. Other than that, most teams at the moment are keeping their distance, with the exception of the Punisher of Tharishia.
Yeah, it looks like damage just on that Dominix. They're going to see if they can break his tank, especially when that Hyperion gets closer. They're going to have a lot of damage to put down with effectively two battleships worth of DPS. You know, the Oracle is so much stronger at putting out damage than any of these Canes, or in this case, the Prophecy, which has notoriously weak damage.
Yeah, it is worth noting that both of the battleships are running micro jump drives, so that does give them the option to move around the arena, assuming they're not scrammed. If the Dominix starts to drop, he can just move away.
Well, hopefully we do see some kind of aggressive moonwalk, or more people turning 360 degrees and walking right back into the enemy. Hopefully not out of the arena, though. That would be a travesty. Here we can see damage getting put on Machine of Loving Grace in the Dragoon, however, but it doesn't seem to be that much. They couldn't break that Dominix, and they don't look to be breaking this Dragoon, whereas the Griffin of Johnny Tengu taking a lot of damage there. His initial buffer taken away.
Yeah,
but
although
reps right back up.
Yeah, it does look like they've managed to catch him with reps, but it remains to be seen whether he actually has enough buffer to live through the.
The Dragoon has caught the Thrasher out of position. He's taking a lot of damage for it, but he's managed to get webs and newts on him. This could be the break that Team Johnny are looking for. If they can keep this Dragoon alive, they should be able to just pour DPS on this Thrasher. The Thrasher not putting out anything back onto him, and it looks like the Dragoon has gotten himself in a bit of trouble, though. There we see a grappler applied. A little too deep, a little too greedy, perhaps.
Yeah, he does appear to have coasted out now, and the Grappler has swapped to the Prophecy of Ithaca, although the Thrasher was actually already pre-repped by the Scythe, so I'm wondering whether the Thrasher was actually the one who engaged on the Dragoon. He was burning in for quite a while. The Dragoon and the Thrasher duked it out for a while, and decided they probably didn't want to stand toe-to-toe with that Hyperion looming.
Yeah, it seems like both of these destroyers seem to be in some way critical to the other's game plan because they're not willing to throw them away for anything. They're just trying to play super conservatively here, feel each other out. They're right near they're not near the edge of the arena, but they're getting very close to it. They've got about 50 km left to burn, and if they burn any further, they're going to run out of places to move, basically, and they're going to be forced to fight it out. Here we see the Prophecy, again, moving in, trying to get tackle on something, because he's so much more durable than any of their other tackle. It's not looking to be too successful
although
right
we see
now.
the Griffin now taking quite a lot of damage, dipping into that armor buffer. Rep's just about landing, but the split damage from that Dominix and Prophecy coming across onto the Oracle and Griffin. Yeah, he's just about
they
holding
need
on.
that Griffin off the field. He's jamming out their Prophecy by the looks of things, which is going to be their main tackle. They tried to burn him in, and the Griffin countered there with excellent ECM play, turning off the Prophecy's tackle and letting them pull range.
The Griffin dipping into hull, but I'm wondering why. I mean, I understand the choice to jam out the Prophecy tackle here, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. He's dead. The Prophecy and the Dominix taking down the Griffin of Johnny Tengu. Eventually, he did his best, but it was not enough.
Look at the Prophecy, though.
Yes, the Prophecy of Ithaca Hawk, grappled, web. I mean, the reps of Nuke Cave are landing on him, probably overheated at this point, but he doesn't seem to be holding. With that Hyperion and Oracle pounding into him, I don't see how he's going to hold.
Yeah, I hope his tank's thick enough to survive this. It's, there's so much damage being put out, but the Prophecy, a notoriously tanky hull with that resist bonus. The Thrasher as well, taking a ton of damage there. He's webbed and scrammed, I believe, by that very Prophecy, so this is going to be incredibly dangerous for him.
Yeah, I mean, the Prophecy and the Dominix both having a notoriously girthy tank, but I don't see... I mean, if that Prophecy goes down before the Thrasher does, then I think he should be able to hold. There we go, Ithaca Hawk going down.
I'll trade a Thrasher and a Griffin any day for a Prophecy, though. That's the entire boost off the field there for Team Johnny. They're no longer going to have those bonus reps. They're no longer going to have that bonus tank, and that's something that Team Offline didn't have because of their choice to do go with the Oracle. But the Oracle's now caught. Oh, how did that happen?
that being said, the Hyperion is pretty much the only tackle that that they have left at this point. So whilst that Dragoon is held, somehow he managed to get grappled and webbed by the Hyperion. I mean, I don't think they're actually going to be applied damage to him. He still seems to be moving quite comfortably.
Yeah, look at that. The Dominix coming up on that Oracle, looking menacing, like a shark hunting for blood there. The Oracle is going to have so little tank. He's not going to be able to survive. I'm surprised that we're not seeing this Dragoon, though, turn left and tackle down this Scythe. You would have thought that would be the optimal play here. You've already caught that Oracle. Don't get greedy.
Yeah, the Oracle now very hard tackled. He is moving, 20 meters a second at this point. I don't know what their play is here. I mean, the Oracle is just about holding, but that Dominix will be on top of him shortly, and I believe it puts out about 850 DPS when it's when the Dommy's sitting on his face. I mean, the Dragoon is holding quite comfortably. I think their only choice here is to go for the Execra or the Dominix.
Yeah, and unlike you, Oracles don't like having things sit on their face. One interesting thing here, however, is that Hyperion is in between the Scythe and the Dominix and the general brawl around that Oracle, and he's keeping it up well. But if one of these ships can disengage and kind of force him off, they might be able to kind of push him away and let this Oracle die, because right now he's kind of holding at 20%.
I think now the Oracle has... I mean, he's getting speed ups, but I think probably at the expense of his signature radius. I think at this point the Oracle just needs to accept the loving embrace of the Dominix and let it happen.
I don't think he's going to go quietly into this good night. We're not seeing much damage being traded back onto Team Johnny, however. This is really unfortunate. They need to be making something from this.
Yeah, the Dominix taking chunks of damage, but it does appear that with that Oracle now dipping into 60% armor, that he will be absolutely fine to hold, unless by some miracle the Oracle of Ice Tim can move away.
Yeah, I'm really just surprised here to not see Team Johnny just start to use this as the crux to turn the fight on Team Offline. They've already got so little material left to work with. If they trade out 1 or 2 ships here, just tackle down that Scythe and kill it really quick, they should be able to carry this match. That Dominix is just holding.
It's
so
worth noting that it looks like both the Hyperion and the Scythe are running shield maintenance bots onto that Oracle, so really putting everything they've got into keeping him alive. I'm not sure whether it's going to be enough. I mean, he is, again, pretty much sitting stationary. The Dominix is taking, I'd call negligible damage. I mean, he is slowly going down, but not much faster than the Oracle's.
How is that Oracle still alive? It's been tackled by a Dominix, a Dragoon, a Punisher, and they've just been pounding on it this whole time. How is it not dead yet? What is going on? This Oracle must have the thickest tank in the world. I've never seen this before.
It does look like, though, the Hyperion is running a smart bomb, and he may have cleared some of the drones from that Dominix and Dragoon that were causing damage. So although we see the Oracle dropping lower and lower, he may be able to hold the longer this goes on.
Yeah, look, apparently the Oracle might have some rep bots on it, which means that, honestly here, if I was Team Johnny, I'd make the play and just try and kill off those rep bots, because this Oracle was, like, slowly bleeding, but he's hanging on for so much more than he should. They could have gotten so much more out of this, but it's not enough. The Oracle living like a true champion, but not quite enough. Let's see if this Scythe and Hyperion can really just meme it all out. It looks like the Scythe actually finally did get neutered out by that Dragoon, potentially, and that was what tipped the edge.
But with a minute left now, I mean, the Hyperion really needs to make a play for this Dragoon and Punisher. I'm not sure whether he's going to be able to close the range. He's moving again 20 meters a second. There should be no way, minus piloting error, that the Dragoon or Punisher should be caught by this Hyperion.
Yeah, well, it looks like the Scythe's managed to escape here. He's gotten away from the Dragoon, and he's going to be taking a lot less damage now. Free to roam around the arena, probably the fastest ship left on the grid. And this Hyperion probably should be able to survive unless he mismanages on Team Johnny's side. I mean, what have they got here? They could really break an Oracle with its hardness off under Scythe reps. The Scythe, though, somehow getting caught again. Oh no! The Dragoon here, in his hours, getting him tackled right by the center of the arena. This could be the thing that takes all hope out of Team Offline. But no, that's the end of the match. Team Johnny takes it here, I believe. Another excellent display here. These two teams were kind of equally matched, and just some really minor things let Team Offline down. I can't wait to see a rematch of this fight at some point.
I would love to see the stats actually on the Oracle of Ice Tim to see how much damage he actually took. But with that all over, I think we're going to be throwing it back to Apophany and the gang to go over what we just saw.
Hey guys, welcome back. I have some fantastic news on an Oracle, and our Oracle fit, I should be clear, has 2 large shield extenders, Tech 2, a nanofiber internal structure, a damage control 2, and an EM rig. That is all the tank it has. It took very nearly 80,000 damage. 80,000 damage. That thing was made up of adamantium, it seemed, until the very end when it finally fell. Suetonia, that was one of the best matches I think Eventy has ever seen. What were your thoughts? Any favorite moments?
Yeah, that was just a great match through and through, really. It looked like Offline had the edge when they killed the support they killed the Prophecy. They traded that Griffin and Thrasher for the Prophecy, and I thought that was definitely a great trade. But it seemed, just Team Johnny just had better tackle and positioning with the Punisher, the Ixchel, and the Dominix. They were just able to tackle down the Oracle and get the Dominix on top of it. And they weren't able to catch the Dragoon with the Hyperion and do a reverse trade. And yeah, it was great. There was so much going on too. You know, the Dominix was actually killing. The Hyperion was killing the Dominix's Praetors as well as smart bombing, which is also what made the Oracle live for such a long time.
Nice. Rain, have you managed to join us this evening?
Yeah, so I can kind of follow up on Sutonia's comment there if you'd like. So
Please do.
yeah, so the Dominix actually also has a smart bomb, and I initially saw it smart bombing, and it would look like webbing drones off of himself, but he was also sitting right on top of the Oracle for the majority of that fight, but he was not running his smart bomb at all, nor was he running his blasters. So I was super curious to know, like I was hopefully trying to maybe see if the pilots, like I don't know if maybe they burnt out their guns, burnt out their smart bomb, or if he was just struggling with capacitor or something along those lines. But there was like a lot of questionable stuff that made me think, like, had they acted a little more like, you know, using those smart bombs to get the rep drones off, or, you know, also shooting them with guns, because the Oracle wasn't really going anywhere, and he was sitting right on top of them. So using those blasters would have been that additional DPS. But yeah, I had a little questionable stuff from that Dominix, but yeah, the Oracle, I think, was MVP of that match.
Awesome. Jintan, Jake, now you've had a few moments to, like, catch your breath. Are there any things that you want to bring up from that match?
I think probably the piloting of the Prophecy at the start was pretty key. He was burning around. He was trying to initiate tackle on quite a few things, but just probably going down a little bit too early to be effective. That being said, it didn't matter in the long run. But without that Griffin, the Griffin was really the linchpin there. I think if the Griffin had been able to jam out that Dominix, to jam out the Dragoon, then potentially the Oracle could have pulled enough range to actually live. That being said, he still did a pretty good job regardless.
Awesome. So our next match is actually happening really soon. We're really churning through them tonight. We have the Volta team coming up against Sudden Otters. Sudden Otters team here coming up against Volta. So we should have the bans available for those coming up onto your screens momentarily. And I'm going to ask Sutonia and Rain to run you through the picks and bans for this third match of the day.
Okay, so Volta, they've chosen to ban the Blackbird and Griffin, still triggered from the Alliance tournament, I guess, as well as the Apocalypse in the later round, and they've gone with the Vigil, bonus target painters, the Synesis, a really tanky drone platform, the Osprey, afterburner only, XLSB fit, the Cyclone, which is a hand brawler with a shield command burst, and the Hyperion, which we just saw in the previous match, which is the grapple MWD MJD Blink ship. Is a very strong battleship for creating pressure on the opponent.
Yeah, so Sudden Otters banned out the Scythe, the Augur, and then the Ferox, and they have picked the Rifter, Algos, Executor, Brutix, and Dami. So we see the returning battleships from the last match, and I believe, Sutonia, you mentioned the Alliance tournament, and that's something for people back home to keep an eye on, as some of these pilots love to fly in the Alliance tournament, and obviously the Alliance tournament happens once a year. So to make up for that and to continue to practice, they do these player-run tournaments. So you'll recognize a lot of these names if you're a huge fan of the AT.
Yeah, Volta team, a very strong team in the Alliance tournament, and Sudden Otters actually has some of the pilots from Volta. Vydra Reloaded, Nick Noiser, who was the captain for that team, which won the Alliance tournament. So this is definitely going to be a very good match, I think.
Yeah, so Vidra in Russian, as I think we've mentioned, is a term for an otter and nothing else.
Yeah, and so that's kind of where they got their name, Sudden Otters, and their cute little logo. I believe at least calls it the best logo that we have in the EVT. But I'm really excited to see this match, especially because both teams do very well in tournaments. I'll say, Sutonia, do you have a favorite for winning this?
Based on the ships, I think I'm gonna go with the Sudden Otters team. I think, but I definitely know that Volta is a strong team, and I hope they bring out a win for the Shield side.
I mean, it's something to be said if you beat the guys that just won the Alliance tournament. You know, you're doing pretty well in that case. Still, it looks like we are about ready to start here. So we do have 1 or 2 minutes, but I'm going to hand it over to Jintan and Jake to bring you our next match between Sudden Otters and Volta.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the battlefield. I'm here with the other part of Team Regional British Accents, Jake Meister, for the last time today. After this, I believe Rain Chocolate and Suetonia will be taking over the booth. But here we see a really interesting warpin. Nika Noiser and the rest of Sudden Otters dropping in at a ball at 50k, whereas Volta have gone for a spread out line roughly 90 degrees from them. So their frigate, the Vigil, is going to be a mile and a half away from that team.
Yeah, although I do like Volta's choice here to bring in everything in the way they have. They've got their mainline DPS, they've got their mainline tackle up front to screen off this Otters team, and then they have the Vigil back just to project lovely beams of target painting love all the way across the arena.
Yeah, and that's a perfect position for him. He doesn't need to be doing the tackling. That's Anesis' job, the tankiest destroyer, as far as I am aware, in the fitting setups that we have, but one of the lowest damage as a result. We can see damage starting being applied to the Osprey of Starfleet Commander, but it's just not landing. You can see shots being fired and nothing really hitting. It looks like from that Brutix.
Yeah, and we do see a cloud of drones that were on the Silicis of Thuvia, although they have now been recalled back. The Volta team charging towards the Otters up there at the top peak of the arena. Otters not really, with the exception of the Rifter burning around to try and tackle things, not really moving that much. It is worth noting, however, that the Osprey of Starfleet Commander will actually be, for a period of time, out of range of his friendly links.
Look at that Cyclone just burning in, grabbing tackle on that Brutix. You can see them now basically dueling on top of each other. Looks like a little bit of damage is being applied to that Sunesis, but it's not particularly effective. Whereas that Brutix is going down very, very quickly, or starting to hold now that reps have applied to him, but he's grappled, he's painted, he's scrammed, he's tracking disrupted. There's very little that they're not doing to that poor Brutix.
Yeah, it looks like if Volta were to throw any more E-War against this Brutix, they'd probably break the tournament UI. There's so much control going on here. The Brutix now taking chunks of damage, that Hyperion and Cyclone just tearing into it. The Sunesis, although being a very tanky destroyer, still hasn't got a negligible amount of DPS, so the longer these ships stay up, then the less and less likely they're going to be able to save this Brutix.
Yeah, that Dominix is trying desperately to keep that Hyperion away from the Brutix that stops basically just blasting away layers and layers of Brutix with every volley of its blasters, just getting up there in its face. It's absolutely messy here for Sudden Otters. They needed to kind of control the range a little bit, use their armor advantage, and it's not really worked out for them. This has been a shield rush with a Hyperion. It sounds crazy, but in EVE-NT, the craziest plans do seem to work. That Brutix nearly surviving, gaining back a little bit of armor just in time to get volley through again and lose the last bit of its structure. Sudden Otters now a huge disadvantage. Let's see what Volta goes on next. Looks like that Dominix.
It is worth noting, however, that the Dominix, he is now scrammed, but as per the previous match, the Dominix and the Hyperion both running micro jump drives, which means that if this Dominix is by some miracle able to break his tackle, then he has got that option available to him. Although at this point, both teams in a massive slug. The Cyclone actually of Neuron taking an appreciable amount of damage, dropping to about 30%. If they're able to break this Cyclone, I do quite like Otter's chances still.
Yeah, I want to just bring your attention away from that just for a second to look at this little tackle war that's going down behind the lines with the Vigil and the Algos dueling it out there. Earlier, that Vigil had been able to move in and get a web on that Osprey, which would have been disastrous for Starfleet Commander. It would have let all of the other team just collapse on top of him. And this Algos went in to stop that. And the Rifter here of Randolph Sykes going down really, really fast, going hard, but just about surviving. It looks like he might be mitigating some damage. This is crazy, bouncing back and forth.
And it's worth noting as well, as a result of that small little tackle battle going on at the back, you mentioned the Cyclone not getting enough reps, the Sunesis also needing some. I mean, the active tank on the Cyclone that I believe it runs, I mean, he's clawing some back now, but I mean, they're going to have to make a decision soon, potentially, as to whether they keep this Vigil alive, or when the Cyclone hits reload again, it looks like he's managed to now, whether they keep him up.
Whether they sacrifice him for the greater good. I think they almost have to here. This Vigil needs to keep this Algos away, or that Scythe's going to be in a hell. Sorry, the Osprey is going to be a hell of a lot of worry. That Vigil going into armor as the Cyclone hits 20%, splitting their reps, and it's not working out for them. The Vigil goes down, the Cyclone's still super low. Now Newts are on the Osprey. We're probably going to see this Algos start to tackle down the Scythe in a second here. Unless that Synesis can get counter tackle on the Algos, it looks like he's going for it. The Cyclone at 10%, boosting back up again.
But the Dominic's now taking a large amount of damage. He's dropping down to about 30% armor. And if they don't take down this Cyclone before the Dominic starts dropping even more, then I don't foresee them winning this.
God, this is so intense for both teams. Look at how low that Dominic says. Look at how low that Cyclone is. Synesis scrammed off. This is really close as the Dominic's
dropping into hull now.
Oh, the Cyclone's hitting really low armor, really low shields as well. He can't hold on to this forever. He's gonna run out of heat on his invuln, and that's gonna be the end of him.
It is worth noting, however,
unless they can kill this Dobby first.
The Hyperion, the Dominics, and the Cyclone all sitting absolutely still. I mean, the Hyperion is, I mean, I suppose it kind of makes sense because he can apply more damage without having to worry about his tracking. But this Dominic's right now, if I were him, I would be moving as much as I can. He needs to mitigate as much damage as possible. Otherwise, those little chunks of hull are soon going to turn into larger chunks of hull.
Look, that Algos there of Serena getting tackled. Not entirely sure what he's doing. I think he's just trying to keep the Synesis away from the Execura, maybe, but it's so far away. I think he's just going to die for basically no return. That Dominic's taking a huge chunk of structure there. The armor rep's not quite lining up with the Alpha from that Hyperion. He's starting to move the tiniest bit, but he's already 90% grappled, well in the range for that. And
he's just about living at this point, but I mean, they can't afford. Nah, and he's gone.
Oh, he's dead. God, that was. I thought that Dominic's was going to be able to kill it then.
Upsettingly for the Otters team, that Cyclone dropping incredibly low just before the Dominic's was lost. If he'd been able to hold on 20, 30 seconds longer, then they may have been able to take down that Cyclone, and the match may have ended out very differently.
Yeah, without that Dominic's, there's no real way for the Southern Otters to get back into this. Even if the Hyperion, YOLO swags his way out of the arena with an MJD, there's not really a chance that an Algos can kill off a Cyclone. I don't see that happening.
No, it does look like now the Execra grappled, starting to slow down, Scram running on him as well. The Algos receiving reps, but again, webbed, neutered. I think at this point it's up to Volta to clean up the field.
Yeah, this is really, really heartbreaking for Southern Otters. They were coming so desperately close there in the middle of the match to turning it around after that shield rush in from Volta, but it wasn't quite enough. The Cyclone managing to live just barely in low shields, and from there it was game over.
Yeah, I am surprised how long this Execra and Algos are actually holding on.
No. Let's take a pause here. The Algos going for the hero duel against the Synesis. He wants it. He wants that kill. Still hungry for blood. This is what I love about the Vizra team. They don't give a heck that they're not going to win this match. They're going to make it as close a victory as they possibly can. Get those points on the board, and that's that winning mentality that served them so well in so many tournaments.
Yeah, at this point, the Execra is starting to lose armor. He's not moving particularly quickly. Interestingly enough, the Cyclone is still only barely catching on him, but that Hyperion's grapple should make short work of him, surely.
Yeah, it's just going to be a question of, it looks like the Execra is now scrammed and grappled by the Hyperion. He got caught sleeping, and the Hyperion was there to wake him up with a nice rounding barrage of probably Void Owl.
It is interesting to note how fast the Execra was going for a period there. Even with his prop mod on, he's still moving at 150 meters a second until a few seconds ago, which was mitigating a lot of damage from that Hyperion. But now that he is he's grappled properly, not moving really at all, and he is not long for this world.
Yeah, not accepting his death, not going quietly into the void, but doesn't look like it's going to be enough there. Yeah, there we go. Leaving Southern Otters with nothing but a singular Algos, which is tackled. And good fights are being called in local here, but let's take a look at this Algos, as it appears to be being repped by the Scythe. Don't know why, probably just jokes. Or is it just collusion? Who knows?
I mean, it wouldn't be a first.
And there we go. Sudden Otters knocked out a really close fought match there between Volta and Sudden Otters, but not one you can see on the scoreboard. 4 ships remaining with only a Vigil loss there for Volta. With that, let's pass it back to the studio.
So, welcome back. We've just seen Volta there take out the team formed from this year's Alliance Tournament 15 victors, taking out Vida Reloaded in their form as Sudden Otters. Something to mention here is that TD drones are huge in this meta at the moment. Sutonu, do you want to tell us a little bit about those?
Yes. So ECM drones are actually banned in this tournament, but the other EWAR drone types are not banned. So teams can opt to bring tracking disruptor drones, webbing drones, which we saw quite a bit too. You can also bring, for example, damp drones too, although we didn't really see it. We probably won't see any of those. The reason why tracking disruptor drones are so powerful is that because you can't script the TDs in this format, and most of the TDs are actually limited onto the Crucifier and the Arbitrator currently. The only real ways you have to bring tracking disruptors without bringing a dedicated ship, and also a TD 900 Praetor actually has almost the same stats as a tracking disruptor from a Crucifier when you're comparing it unscripted. So it is very powerful. It's almost the same as a Crucifier TD, which is quite decent.
Yeah, it should be noted those things are incredibly fragile, though, so a good team should be able to clear them up quickly.
Well, I do want to ask, the rest of the couch, Rain, when you were watching that match, were there any particular points that you particularly liked? Any piloting mistakes or brilliance that you managed to pick up on?
I managed to turn off my mute before I used push to block. But no, I think I'd pointed it out in our staff channel. But I always just like watching the little things, like the little piloting things people do when not directly commenting these matches. And one thing I noticed was, I believe when the Rifter was dying, it had armor bots on it, which makes sense. It has an armor fleet, but it also had like shield bots on it, shield rep bots. So you could see as it was dying, it was actually getting shield reps. And those are those like little piloting, like both like, I want to say mistakes, but also something that people completely forget about when flying in these tournaments. Like a lot of people very rarely on TQ use rep bots when they're not flying Logi. So when you have like these Dommies, the Brutix, the Algos, and they have any sort of rep bots, or I guess it'd be the other team too, like so like the Sunesis. So like when you have these ships that have drones and you're not really flying a drone boat, and you're like, oh yeah, I'll just like attack the enemy. You forget about it. And some of those little things, like keeping that Rifter alive just a little bit longer, keeping an enemy ship alive just a little bit longer, or maybe the opposite of where you're not repping your teammate, like we saw with the Oracle, how it stayed alive so long with those rep bots. Some of those like little mistakes could actually swing the flow of battle. And in this instance, I don't think it did, but that was just something I picked up on that players need to keep an eye on.
Awesome. So in 7 minutes here, we have coming up our 4th match today. This is Provishots going up against the Nasty Boys. Nasty Boys having pretty interesting tournament history. They had their first run at the Alliance tournament this year. I believe they were the Ghost Legion team, if I remember correctly, having probably been in BDCI, which was in Pandemic Legion, then MC. Now they're doing their own thing. And then before that, many of their core pilots are actually members of EVE University. So they've got this kind of beautiful arc through different parts of EVE Online to follow, which have taken them into the tournament setting. So we also have Provishots. Now, Jin, I'm going to ask you, I'm not sure about this, but do the Provishots have anything to do with your glorious homeland?
Yeah, they do. They're full of generic players from our Alliance tournament team that actually didn't end up making it into the competition last year due to some minor issues with paying bills and things, which we don't want to talk about. I'd like everyone watch from Provi. Give us an Amar Victor in chat. Let us know.
Fantastic. So we're going to have these guys coming in. We go about 5 minutes before the match, which is a wonderful time to start looking through the bans for this match here between Provi Shots and Nasty Boys. Let's see what the teams are going to be bringing up for us. I'm going to hand it over to Rain and Sutonia to talk us through the bans, as they will be casting this match.
All right, so I believe they're going to be on screen, but Nasty Boys we have in red being at the Scorpion and the Hyperion, and then eventually the Megathron. And they ended up picking the Griffin, so while banning the Scorpion, they went ECM on their own. And then picking the Sunesis for that tanky drone boat, the Scythe for the fast shield Logi, the Ferox, and then the Rogue, because obviously you can't stop the Rock. Sutonia, you want to introduce Pravishots?
Yeah, Provishots have banned the Augurer, which is kind of weird to me, and they also banned the Raven, which is a ship we haven't actually seen brought yet, but 2 teams have banned it, which I'm sure Elise is, gleefully smiling away at. They've bought the Atron, which is a dual prop tackler, an Algus, which again is kind of like the armor mirror of the Sunesis, quite tanky with a lot of tackle, and you've got those support drones. The Excra, which is one of the favorite armor logis. The Myrmidon, quite interestingly enough, I guess I'll talk a bit more about that in a second, and they've also brought the Dominix too. Now, this is probably one of the only times we've seen a team pick the Myrmidon over the Prophecy. The only time we've ever seen the Myrmidon picked, in fact, I think in the past, is when the Prophecy was banned and they still wanted the armor links. However, I think the reason why they chose the Myrmidon instead of the Prophecy is to get an all-Galanti team. Because that Griffin there, it has those 4 racial jammers, one of each. But if the entire team is Galanti, it only has the 1 Galanti jammer that has to be spread between those 5 different ships. So the other 3 racial jammers that it has are going to be much weaker than you'd normally expect.
Yeah, and I also noticed the trend with Pravishots too. They all picked kind of drone boats, if you want to say, except maybe that Atron. So had they picked a Tristan over an Atron, they'd all just be able to have mass amounts of drone spam, which we saw, I believe, a lot during the first season of the EVNT Championship, where people would use those drone boats to actually have armor rep bots for the Executor, or say for Nasty Boys were to do it for the Scythe. But a lot of people have gone that route as well.
It'd be interesting to see what teams are going to do what. I think Provishots is probably going to be very aggressive in this match. The Rogue is a blaster ship that's sort of a really strong brawler, but the Ferox, Scythe, and Sunesis and Griffin are more kitey, stay away ships. So I think they definitely want to catch and kill that Griffin, definitely probably want to catch the Ferox or the Scythe, and I guess the Dominix, the Atron, and the Algus can be very aggressive. Be interesting to see what happens and what warping ranges both teams choose to pick.
So, very briefly, as we are on the Lifeblood patch now, it came out on Tuesday of this week. Jintan, as a member of CSM, we had a bunch of changes to many of the T1 ships we are seeing here as I see the team land on grid. Do you want to briefly run us down what happened in the balance changes that we are now seeing played out in the tournament play?
Yeah, these changes were relatively small, and they're kind of part of CCP's changing of how they approach balancing, from seeing it as almost a feature, that's how it was previously kind of understood internally, and more to an integral part of live production of the game. And it's shifted teams, they've had personnel directly attached to it, kind of like things like server structure. They've now got a balancing team that's going to be working on balance for the game. We're going to start to see some more of these minor little shifts just to make things more interesting. We've already seen the ADCU, for example, on the hacks, proposed at Vegas, I believe.
I mean, Sutonia, as someone on the CSM, one of the things you were really pushing for as your main expertise is that of, individual ship balance and running the numbers on those kinds of things. How do you feel about the upcoming balance changes? And do you think that they are going to positively or negatively or neither impact the tournament scene?
I think they're very good, especially for the tournament scene. The main change really is that instead of getting balance passes like every 6 months to a year, we're now getting them like every 3 months. For example, the new Assault Frigate pass that's coming just after this Lifeblood balance pass, and there's also an alpha. There's also like a big alpha patch, I think, coming December 5th. And then also, I'm not sure if the Assault Frigate the Assault Frigate Heavy Assault Cruiser changes will be in that patch, or if they'll be slightly later. But this is definitely, I think, a much better release balance schedule for everyone. Just having different ships be rebalanced every 3 months. I know there might be some people like freaking out if there's like a balance change as soon as the Alliance tournament rules are announced or something. But those are pretty fun, and teams just need to get good, in my opinion.
Awesome. So you heard it here, guys. We've got fantastic stuff coming through from the Balance team, coming through just in the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months. So unfortunately, we don't see assault frigates in the Event tournament, but I'm sure we might see them pop in some fashion before the Alliance tournament next year. We are now ready for this match. Let's hand over to our commentators for this match, which is going to be Suetonia and Rain.
Welcome back. I'm Rain, and I'm joined by Suetonia. We're going to be commentating Nasty Boys in red and Pravi Shots in blue. So Nasty Boys have brought the Rogue, Scythe, Ferox, Sunesis, and Griffin, and as almost anyone could predict, the Griffin is in at 50, while the rest of the team has warped in at 30.
Yeah, and the Provisiots guys, they've brought the Dominix, Aetron, and the Myrmidon a bit closer at 30 kilometers, but the Logi and the Algus is a bit further away at 50 kilometers.
So we have about 5 seconds on the clock. Suetonia, what do you think is going to happen within the first probably 30 seconds of this match? Do you think Pravi Shots are going to go for that Griffin, or do you think they're going to primary something else?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they are going to do. They definitely want to primary the Griffin. The Logi is burning directly away. The Nasty Boys team is being very defensive here. They do have the only real ship that can project here in the Ferox, so I guess they kind of just want to pull that away, maybe try and get a jam on the Executor, and maybe try and kill the Algus or the Aetron or something that they can kill. We do have a lot of sentry drones actually out by the Provisiots team though. There's a lot of Curator 1s put out by that Myrmidon and the Dominix, so they're going to be trying to use those at long range to snipe away at the Nasty Boys.
Yeah, and I had mentioned earlier when we were doing some analysis about the use of rep bots. So the Nasty Boys team actually all has rep bots out and about, and they initially are putting them on that Scythe. But as we see the Sunesis and the Rogue taking damage, you can see them move about the field. But that's a really good strategic play to kind of help give them some more defense rather than using drones offensively or for E-War.
Yeah, Nasty Boys are actually shooting the Curator 1s with the Ferox there, so they want to get rid of those drones. It looks like it is at least causing the Scythe to have to rep that Sunesis the entire time. It's interesting that Provisiots aren't really going in here. They're kind of playing at range right now. I guess that both teams are just kind of feeling each other out. You don't see any jams going on from the Griffin either onto the Provisiots team. I guess he's just playing really defensive and just trying to stay out of trouble rather than going into his lock range and jamming anything.
Yeah, and these first few moments of a match are super critical. I know a lot of times on camera it might look actually probably boring, but being able to take out these drones before engaging or doing something along the lines of just prepping your team and making sure that you have everything in place, like with those sentries, is a lot more key to the match than a lot of people would think. So on field it don't look like they're doing too much, but the reality is that they are. Especially with this Dominix. I'm surprised we haven't seen the Domi MJD yet. It looks like he's burning in rather than trying to strategically MJD onto his opponents.
Yeah, actually, if you take a look at that Griffin, the reason why he's not jamming anyone is he's actually jamming the sentry drones, which is really interesting. They're just trying to... The Nasty Boys really want to get rid of these sentry drones. They're shooting some of them. They're jamming some of them with the Griffin. It's quite interesting. So I don't think Provisiots will be able to really achieve anything by kiting at range. And but I'm not sure what Nasty Boys are really getting out of this, aside from the fact that they're, going through drones.
Yeah, I mean, it could be almost like a sit and wait game. So since neither want to go in, usually, everything I've heard, usually the team that makes the first move can sometimes be the team that loses first, because obviously you're more prone to, making a mistake. So they could be doing that. They could be just waiting and slowly... It looks like Pravi Shots is trying to slowly push Nasty Boys kind of with their backs to the arena because they're more towards the center. So it could just be one of those things where they're sitting and waiting for somebody from Nasty Boys to, be at a position where they, land a couple good shots and then they can move in and tackle or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think Nasty Boys are really trying to hope that Provisiots are going to initiate on them. in a bad kind of way, because they do have the Rogue, which is the strongest brawling battleship in the arena right now. And maybe they tried to like force, like if the Rogue like catches the Dominix or catches the Myrmidon, it can definitely probably kill them or put a lot of pressure on them. And also when you've got that Griffin there too, you know, if the X-Crew has to come into the enemy side to get reps, and it's going to probably get jammed by that Griffin at some point.
Yeah, we do see damage kind of on the Pravi shot side. So as they're moving in, they're taking fire, but they're an armor tank team, so it's not really doing too much to them. You can also see, I think the Rogue was taking some fire earlier. I don't know if our cameraman can do it, but if you zoom in, you can see these sentries definitely firing off and drones moving back and forth across the field. We see some warriors actually now going in on that Griffin. They're definitely trying to get this Griffin off the field. Nobody likes ECM.
Yeah, we're going to see the Atron and the Sunesis collide here pretty soon. They're both playing pretty defensive, but they are within 10 kilometers of each other, so they could tackle each other right now. The Atron is actually charging in right now towards that Rogue. To see if he is grappled and webbed now, but he is counter-scramming that Rogue. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So what they've done is they've tried to get a scram on the... Oh, the Atron's jammed! The scram is turned off on that Rogue. And now the Rogue will be able to MWD away while grappling the Atron, and he might actually be able to apply. But the Atron is dual prop, so he should be still pretty safe under that Rogue grappler. But I think the real fight's about to start now. They were trying to just scram that Rogue to keep him away, I guess, while the other ships commit on something else.
Yeah, and if you look, this Myrmidon now is taking a lot of fire. He's into armor now. But I mean, the Executor is pretty close to him. He's catching reps. I do not see any reps on him, he's not tackled really out. I mean, he's grappled, but his shipster, the whatchamacallit, the Rogue is still pretty decently far away, although he is moving in. It looks like, oh wow, the Myrmidon's actually losing a lot of armor now. The Rogue's super close within brawling range. The Griffin trying to save him with those jams.
Yeah, we don't see any reps on the Myrmidon. I guess the X-Crew is jammed right now, and that's probably why the Myrmidon's going to die here, unfortunately. Sunesis isn't really taking too much damage either. And the reps just came on but too late. The X-Crew was jammed by that Griffin, and now I think it's definitely downhill for Pravi shots.
Yeah, and it looks like the Executor kind of got too close trying to save him, because he's grappled as well and taking heavy fire, and now actually webbed by, I believe it is the Sunesis, yeah. So he's now tackled too close to that Rogue, so he's definitely going to be taking damage unless he can try to break free.
Yeah, they already lost to Myrmidon, which is a big loss, and if they lose the X-Crew, I think the fight's over. Now that he's grappled and webbed, I think that it is very likely that they are going to lose him without really killing anything. I mean, they got a new on the Sunesis, but nothing else really is happening. I think they just, when you bring, you know, the free drone ships, the DPS just seems to be pretty unreliable here, and we haven't really seen DPS go on anything consistently.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we can see a lot of drones from the Pravi Shots team, but they're mostly just kind of sitting idly. I don't know if they were abandoned. I believe those sentries are probably no longer in use. I don't see them shooting. There's just like a flight of heavies kind of moving across the field, and when each of their ships, I think, except maybe the Atron, really has like a decent set of drones, then it's kind of worthless to have any if you're not gonna actually utilize them properly.
Yeah, we see some Warrior 1s out for the Algus. There's some Ogre 1s doing something else, shooting the Ferox for some reason. The Atron has the Rogue tackled. This is split everywhere. I'm not really sure what's going on here. As the X-Crew goes into hull and he's about to go pop, and there he goes. He's dead.
Yeah, so the Algos did attempt to save the Executor by shooting at the Sunesis, but the Sunesis has a whole flight of shield rep bots on him, so it did absolutely nothing to him. He was able to continue to pin that Executor, and now the Algos himself is also caught out and dying.
Yeah, and with every ship that dies, that Griffin gets more and more powerful, because the one Galanti jammer that it has, you know, if it's jamming, you know, 1/5 of the enemy team, when you only have 2 or 3 ships alive, that's much significantly more powerful. It's almost all of the DPS removed from the team. Now it's just the Dominix and the Atron. I don't know what the Dominix can do. The Ogre ones from the Dominix, though, are pressuring that Ferox, but he is catching Scythe reps now.
Yeah, I feel like Pravi Shots could have done a lot more with taking the initiative. We're watching as now the Atron is dying, with only a Dami left. I mean, obviously a Dominix could probably kill any one of these ships 1v1, but altogether, probably not all, especially when there's a Scythe on the field.
Yeah, the Atrium going down here now. It's just the lone Dominix, and the Griffin will probably shut him out at least half of the time here. So I don't think he's going to be able to really kill anything. And they can always just kill the drones that are on the Ferox if the Ferox needs to kill them. This might actually end up being the only domination victory we've seen so far in the Major League if they are able to kill this Dominix before the timer, which might not happen considering the Dominix does have a pretty decent active tank.
Yeah, so the Dami, I think we've seen in other matches where the Dami can live for a decently long time, even without catching reps. And here he has his own, like you said, active tank. So I'm not sure if they'll be able to do it. We have only a minute left, and while he is jammed, obviously if you have drones on field, then usually, depending how your settings are, those will automatically aggress. So that can kind of maybe save the Dami if they, I don't know, go after something. But I'm not sure if they'll be able to kill him in time.
Yeah, the Dominix does have an MJD, so he could MJD here to guarantee that he lives if he makes sure he jumps in a good location before he gets scrammed by the other ships. Looks like the Griffin's taking some damage now. It'd be pretty funny if he died here and just denied them the domination victory. Oh well, I'm not sure if they can kill the Dominix anyway, but it looks like the Scythe's caught him now. I guess the Dominix should just blink away, or maybe doesn't even need to blink to live. Oh, hey, he's running the MJD now. And there you go.
And I was going to say, even though Pravi Shots have lost this match, denying Nasty Boys more points by having that dominating victory and then obviously killing the Dominix itself for the points, then that may give them an edge later on, even though they won't face Pravi Shots and Nasty Boys won't face each other again. It could always help. And we see shield rep bots on this Dominix for some reason. I'm not sure if that's... Oh, good fight banter. Timer's out. And with that, we'll send it back to Apostley in the studio.
Nasty Boys there, proving once again their tournament pedigree. They are a new team, only in the past year or so participating in the tournament leagues, but they have risen to the top in no time at all here in the major leagues of EVE-NT. Jintan, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the match you just watched.
Yeah, that was super unfortunate. You know, that was one of the more stacked lineups I think probably really has available. The only person I think missing out from there is probably Dead Duck, but I'm not sure who you take out to replace it. You know, some really good small gang PvP is there, but they just weren't quite as coordinated as that red team. You know, they were just getting taken apart systematically, being held at bay, and then waiting, and then eventually they got their chance with that Griffin jab, and you just saw Nasty Boys spring into action and take out Pravi Shots, just clinically removing every chance they had of victory with that Myrmidon and then the Algos and the Atron.
Awesome. So we have in just a few minutes our next match coming up for the day, unless anybody else wants to speak about the match we just watched. It's going to be the other team going up against Team Johnny. Now, we saw the other team lose their first match in over a year against Exodunks at 1900 today. But, you know, so this is kind of where the true test of a team comes in. When you have a team that's been riding high on the top and they get knocked down, is this a huge morale blow that they can't come back from? You know, they're shaken, their mindset is completely destroyed. Or is this just going to push them to prove, no, actually, we still are the best. That was a fluke. It's never going to happen again. And going up against Team Johnny, that is no small order. Team Johnny have proved themselves in the past to be a fantastic team as well. They won our second match of the day against Offline. I'm really excited to get into this match. Jintan, what are your thoughts about our upcoming match here?
The one against other team and Team Johnny.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a really cool matchup. We've seen them both do really well in their previous matches, although the other team did lose their first match. They did make it quite close against Exodunks. I'm not sure what we're going to see out of them. I can't wait to see what the drafts are, though. Both teams have had really interesting drafts so far, kind of showing very divergent strategies. You know, not going with what we'd expect, really.
Awesome. So we do have time now to bring up the banning tool. I'm seeing some exciting bans and picks coming through by the looks of it. Let's bring it up on screen. Rain, Sutenia, roll us through these picks and bans.
All right, I'll go first. So Team Johnny had banned out the Griffin because nobody likes ECM, the Executor, and the Ferox. And with that, they picked the Thalia, being the T2 Logistics Frigate, O'Cruiser, which is, I believe, the first we've seen in this tournament, as well as the Bellicose for their cruiser, and then the Prophecy and the Armageddon for those newts.
And the other team, actually going back to a more traditional style, they banned 2 logistic cruisers, and since Team Johnny banned a logistic cruiser too, they were able to pick up the only logistic cruiser with the Osprey, which is probably why Team Johnny went for that Thalia. The other team have also picked up the Slasher, which is a pretty hard to hit afterburner tackler, the Thrasher, which is a very aggressive destroyer, does a lot of damage, but it's not as tanky as the Synesis. It doesn't have the utility drones. The Osprey, the afterburner only shield cruiser. The Drake, Can I Bring My Drake? Great ham brawler with a shield burst, and the Tempest, a very flexible shield brawling ship.
One thing I gotta say is look how much damage is on that other team lineup. They've got 300 in the Thrasher, 700 in the Drake, and another 1300 in that Tempest. That's so much damage if they can put it to work. But they lack pretty much anything apart from that Slasher for tackle. It's going to be super tricky for them to get on top of this team.
Yeah, the other team, the Thrasher, Drake, Slasher, and the Tempest isn't that slow. I think they do have a pretty reasonable amount of tackle. What's really interesting, though, is this Bellicose pick. This is the first Bellicose we have seen ever picked, I believe, in the EVT League. It did actually get buffed in the Lifeblood expansion, and it was changed pretty recently. The Bellicose itself got a bunch more fitting, lock range, and CPU. So now the Bellicose actually can fit a full rack of rapid lights. It used to have 1 before, now it has 4 rapid lights. And it has 3 target painters. Although the Prophecy and the Armageddon aren't really ships that you would expect to see if you were going to bring target painters. It's not like the Typhoon or the Raven or the Apocalypse or Abaddon or any of those ships which were actually not banned. They could have bought that, so it's kind of weird that they chose to bring the Armageddon here, I think.
I honestly think, real talk, that Bellicose might be a direct counterpick to that Slasher. They're going to try and use the Coercer and the Bellicose just to burn it down, or at least keep, so much application on it that it's gonna die.
This may be a match that revolves around that Thalia in terms of the following picks. Thalia is not perhaps an expected pick here from Team Johnny, at least from what I've seen from the meta. Like, it's not the go-to frigate pick. So instead we see these ships coming in here. So the rest of Team Johnny's picking strategy has to be, what ships do I pick to protect my Thalia? And the other team is going, okay, what ships do I pick to kill the Thalia? Because, if it stays up, if you can't pin it down, it's going to mitigate all the incoming damage and keep applying those reps. That thing will rep with T2 reppers fit. 3 small reps fit will rep the same as a T2 Logi with 2 large, 2 mediums. Well, half of a T2 Cruiser Logi with 2 large and 2 mediums. That is a whole lot of rep output that can come from one of those things. So this is going to be a absolutely crazy match coming up. And with that, we will hand it back to our commentators for this evening, which are going to be Rain and Suetonia. Let's get this match going.
Hey, I'm Suetonia. I'm joined by Rain for this match. Team Johnny versus the other team. Team Johnny in the red is they brought the Coercer, the Thalia, the Bellicose, Prophecy, and the Armageddon, and their team is 50 kilometers off the beacon. They chose to go max range with their entire team.
So the other team have brought the Tempest, Osprey, Drake, Thrasher, and Slasher, and they've came in at staggered ranges with both the Drake, the Tempest, including that Slasher, in at 0 on the beacon, or around 10 from the beacon, and then the Osprey and then the Thrasher at staggered ranges of 30 and 25-ish.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I think the other team are going to be very aggressive here. As Jintan mentioned, over 2,000 DPS on this other team, potentially. If you look at the size of either team's attack bar, you can see that the other team's attack bar is actually probably about 3 times the size as Team Johnny's.
Yeah, but the opposite. So Team Johnny has almost like double, if not triple, the defense bar or the E-War bar or control bar, sorry, of the other team. So they're gonna have to be able to mitigate and use that E-War to try and stop the incoming DPS from the other team.
Yeah, so they have the free bonus TPs from that Bellicose as well as the newts from the Armageddon. Be interesting to see what wins, punching people in the face or holding them back with your palm while they punch themselves out.
Yeah, so we have so the match has started, and immediately we see Team Johnny going in, burning in with the battlecruiser battleships.
Yeah, we have sentry drones, Curator 1s deployed by this Armageddon. I think we're probably going to see the Slasher's target painted. Triple TPs on him from the Bellicose. Will the Slasher still be able to mitigate damage from the sentry drones? It is taking some damage, but he is catching reps from that Osprey.
Yeah, so we see the Osprey immediately spreading reps, as well as rep bots going on that Osprey. Slasher is target painted, but now his health is bouncing back and forth as the damage is actually being applied with the other team targeting Team Johnny's Armageddon.
Yeah, that Slasher is now webbed, he's target painted, he's neutered, he's still, moderator in that Slasher still keeping up, but he's going, Armageddon now taking a lot of damage too though. It'll be interesting to see, can moderator stay up? The TP has swapped to the Osprey now, it looks like they're going to change targets, as to Evil One's Armageddon goes into armor.
So, with the Thalia, they're going to have to, the Team Johnny is going to have to stay relatively close to that Thalia. They're not going to be able to spread out as much as the other team because the Osprey reps can reach farther than that Thalia. And the Osprey is actually jumping back and forth, running his ASB to try and get some health back as he's taking a load of damage with the Armageddon at half armor.
Yeah, the Thalia is sitting on top of him right now. The Thalia is actually dual prop, so he's pretty safe to kind of just come in here quite close, and also the Drake with heavy assault missiles probably can't apply too well to him, so he can get full rep effectiveness. Saying that though, a Thalia is not enough to out-tank a Tempest and a Drake, and this Armageddon dropping dangerously low, very low armor, about to hit structure here. Nothing really happening from Team Johnny so far. The Osprey has burned for about 6 charges, I believe, so it might be going down pretty soon.
Yeah, but trading an Armageddon for that Osprey, I'm not sure which would come out more on top. It seems like that Armageddon really isn't doing much to kind of save himself. That Drake is just sitting on top of him, and the Thalia isn't able to save him as he's dropping in the hole.
Yeah, also another really important point, the Armageddon can't actually newt out those Tempest and Drake guns. The heavy newts, obviously autocannons do not use capacitor, neither do heavy assault missiles. So regardless of his newts, he's not going to be able to actually turn off the DPS.
And as the Armageddon is very low hull, the Osprey has already dropped through both armor and hull and died. He ran out of ASB charges and has been eliminated off the field, which should hopefully give Team Johnny an advantage, but they got to keep this Armageddon alive and take action before the Tempest and the Drake manage to finish it off.
Yeah, we're seeing some split damage here too. The Armageddon's really low. He's probably going to die pretty soon, but the Prophecy is also pretty low here too. The Coercer's getting neutered out. The Thrasher is the next primary. Without the Osprey there, the Thrasher's going to go down soon. That's another 400 DPS removed from the other team. This Armageddon's still alive! Thalia is doing work, keeping him up. Thrasher is down. Tempest is the next primary. Armageddon finally down. This is a very close match, I think.
Yeah, and with I was gonna say, without the support wing of the other team, they're gonna have to be able to try and use that Slasher to get tackle, and then hopefully be able to use the Tempest and the Drake to get on top of any enemy ships from Team Johnny and kill them. Next, they're targeting that Prophecy, which is in half armor already, and it looks like the Thalia. Did not catch the Thalia dying. Is it? Oh no, it's out of my range. That's why. So the Thalia is still alive. I just am like screwed up on my overview. Go on, Suetonia.
Yeah, the Thalia is alive. He's now sitting on top of that Prophecy, and he's not getting attacked right now. So he's free to just chill there the entire time. Fortunately, with that Thrasher dead, that would have been a great ship to get the Thalia to run away or die. Prophecy now about to enter structure. I believe we've gone through, about 7 or, well, maybe not. Looks like they're actually swapping to the Drake, Scram Web on the Drake. Not really seeing much damage coming here. If that Prophecy goes down, there's not actually that much damage left. It's just a Bellicose and a Coercer. I think the other team might be able to pull this out from the depths.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the Bellicose and the Coercer can dish out a lot of damage, but that Tempest and that Drake have a lot of tank on their end. And then they're obviously not going to have tank of their own. The Bellicose and the Courser, obviously, as we can see, the Courser dying pretty quickly. Even with the Thalia reps, they're not going to be able to stand up to the damage output of the other team.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why I think the DPS dropped off quite heavily is, the Armageddon died, the Tempest was actually smart bombing. It's quite possible that maybe he cleaned off some of those Prophecy drones, and I think the Bellicose was actually in a reload at the same time. I say Moderator Slasher is going to go down pretty soon here, but he should at least be able to trade for the Coercer or the Bellicose. It'd be interesting to see what teams have most points. So right now, the other team have 9 points scored because they killed a Battleship and a Prophecy, which is 4 points. And Team Johnny have 6 points. So right now, the other team are ahead. They need to kill this Drake to be able to win the game, and they need to keep every one of their ships alive if they want to win this.
Yeah, but as you say that, this Bellicose is dropping pretty quickly, is going to be hitting armor soon. The Courser has been being kept alive by the Thalia, who's able to actually do some work and keep his teammates alive. It didn't work too well with that Prophecy and that Armageddon, but it's a T2 logistics frigate. It can't dish out as much reps as some of those cruisers can.
Yeah, the Bellicose does have a pretty decent armor tank. It does have 2 energized adapters, the 1600 plate and a damage control, so he should be able to stay alive for a while. And there's nothing really alive now, I think, that can really threaten the Thalia too much. So the Thalia is kind of just going to be chilling and keeping him alive as long as possible. The problem is, can they kill anything? There's no logistics on the other side, but a lot of their DPS is in this Bellicose that has rapid light missile launchers. So every time he goes on reload, I don't think they can kill the Tempest anymore, because the Tempest has an XISB. As soon as the Bellicose reloads his rapid lights and they start pressuring the Tempest's charges and his ancillary, the Tempest can just reload as soon as the Bellicose reloads his rapid lights, and he's going to be pretty fine. So I think they have to kill this Drake in the next 3 minutes or so, and the Bellicose is dangerously low. I think that this match is over if he goes down. He's in structure.
Yeah, and the Thalia is sitting right next to him, so he's applying all of his reps as much as he can to try and keep him alive, but the Bellicose is still bleeding whole. I don't think there's any way that they can pull this back.
Yeah, the Bellicose is down. It's just a Thalia and a Coercer now. The Thalia is webbed by the Drake or the Tempest, and he will probably be able to signature Radius tank for a while, but he's definitely not going to be able to keep this Coercer up if the Coercer gets attacked.
Yeah, and one thing to note that the Thalia, I believe, was being neutered the whole time by this Tempest. I know it was starting around a couple minutes ago, so he could have also been facing some cap pressure trying to keep the Bellicose alive.
He does have an injector, so I don't think it'd be too terrible with the heavy newts, but again, it could definitely be causing him some problems.
Oh, he was initially trying to get away from this Tempest, but now he realized his friend in the Courser is dying and is hitting whole, half whole, and almost dead, and they did not manage to get really any reps off of him. Armor reps obviously give health at the end of the cycle, not the beginning, so he had to wait the full cycle and wasn't able to try and save the Courser.
Yeah, it's just the lone Thalia now. There's no attack bar or control bar left on Team Johnny, so unfortunately the other team are going to take this match from them. I wonder if he is able to survive by burning around for 2 minutes, but I doubt it. Maybe he's going to try and deny them the 2 points, which may come into play if the other team end up tied with another team in terms of league points. What's used to decide is how many ships they've killed, the point value in altogether. But it looks like he is hitting structure now, so he's probably going to be going down pretty soon.
Yeah, he is attempting to sig tank this away from that Tempest, although it's not doing too well. And he also has a little drone on him, only an Alkalite one, but it's still incoming damage that he has to try to mitigate.
Yeah, it's only 1 point. The Thalia is only worth the 1 point, so it's not too crucial, but I guess the other team definitely want to get a point back because they did actually lose their first match, which is actually a first to them. In the last season Major League, they didn't actually lose a single match, and they do kill the Thalia, and that's going to be a win for the other team.
With that, we'll send it back to Apophany in the studio.
Hey guys, welcome back. The other team pulling it back there, showing that they still have got what it takes to win matches in our majors leagues after their upset earlier, putting them to 1-1. And Team Johnny to 1-1, despite losing this match, they did win their earlier match versus Offline. Jintan, do you have any thoughts you want to bring up about that match?
I just want to say that, thank you for the blue team there, proving to us what we all knew thanks to Vidra from the Alliance tournament. The Drake is the best tournament ship known to man. They've won an 18 and now they're winning Eventi. I believe the Drake now has a 100% win ratio in this season. And that means that, just always pick Drakes.
Never not fly a Drake. Ugh. Okay, so that aside, we have 10 minutes coming up before our next match. We have Volta going up against Exodunks here at 2040 Eve time, also now UK time as the clocks have moved back. Volta beat Sudden Otters there. That's a really strong showing of Sudden Otters. As we mentioned, are the AT15 winners from Vidra Reloaded. And then Exodunks, their previous match today, they beat the other team. So both teams here, Exodunks and Volta, taking out the top of the competition from the Alliance tournament and the Major League. So this is definitely a match we should be looking towards. Jin, I mean, these two teams now surely are the most hype teams, having each killed, a titan of the tournament scene themselves this evening.
Oh yeah, definitely. These guys are super established teams. They've really just seem to have taken a step up compared to even the heights that we're used to them seeing. I don't like to use terms like elite just yet, but they're showing themselves to be real contenders for the top
tier,
of this.
if you will.
Yes, the top tier of this league.
Fantastic. So we should have the bans available shortly coming up here on the screen for you guys. Jin, if you and Suetonia would run us through these, that would be fantastic.
Okay, so Volta have decided to ban the Blackbird, the Osprey, and in the later stages they banned the Ferox. They've opted to pick the Griffin themselves, the Algus, the Excra, Harbinger, and the Apocalypse. That Griffin is going to be very powerful with the Harbinger's info link, as well as with the Apoc and Harbinger combined. They have a lot of projected DPS, and they have the Griffin as well to cause a lot of havoc at range. And since Jintan appears to be dead, Exodunks banned Abaddon, Caracal, and the Hyperion. They've picked the Vigil, Tower, Scythe, Hurricane, and Typhoon. So Typhoon and Hurricane, again, cruise missiles plus the artillery, backed up by that Vigil, very powerful. Another thing to mention too is the Hurricane has the info link, which they can run the electronic hardening link on that to counter the enemy Griffin, as well as the fact that their entire team is Mimitar. So again, as we mentioned, the Griffin is a Rainbow Jam ship. It has one of each racial. Since they're all Mimitar, they only have the one Mimitar racial. That's going to have to split between all 5 ships, and then they're going to have to use off racials on any other ships they want jammed.
You'll be happy to know that I'm not dead, Suetonia. I was eating some duck because, this is scheduled around UK dinner time, and I'm very hungry.
I didn't know that probably shots knocked out Power Ducks.
But yeah, these teams are super interesting. I like that all Mimitar comp. It just seems to be one of the stronger all races you can go for. Though I am suspect of that Typhoon. We've seen it just really not perform as well as you might expect it to on paper in the Eventi Cup. But we'll just have to see, I guess. They've got a lot of support there with that Vigil and Tower.
Yeah, we didn't actually ever see I believe the Typhoon paired up with the Vigil before. We saw it brought without target painters a few times, and then it really stuck there. And it actually, I think it won when it was paired up with the Kestrel, because the Kestrel has the 1 TP on it. But I'm really excited to see how well this Typhoon's going to do, especially with the Hurricane Artist 2 when backed up by the 2 bonus TPs from that Vigil.
Here's an interesting question for you. If you're the Volta team, would you have picked the Scorpion here? Especially seeing as your opponents have bought a Scythe.
Well, they picked the Griffin, so it was never an option for them. Unless you mean maybe they picked an Atron instead, and in hindsight, would they pick the Scorpion? It's
Yeah.
possible, but also I think maybe Exodunks would have banned the Scorpion instead of the Hyperion in the later stages.
Do you think there's any reason in... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so I was going to pick on Rain, who went to Iceland to commentate her first Alliance tournament, obviously with yourself, Jintan. We have in the Event system a fairly more complex banning system than they do in the Alliance tournament. What do you feel that the banning phase of Event brings to the competition compared to the Alliance tournament, given that it's a full draft analogous to games like Dota 2 in the MOBA scene?
So I think it definitely is more, I want to say, new player friendly than something like the Alliance tournament, because with the Alliance tournament you can only really pick the ships to ban, and with this Alliance tournament it was initially 2 bans per team, and then it moved to 3 bans per team. But with that, I know the tool was in game, and people talked about how it, like, listed every single ship, even ships that like people generally don't have, or aren't even allowed in the Alliance tournament. So like a lot of players and a lot of captains said at first they were super intimidated by the banning tool. Whereas I know with Event, it's kind of out of the game, and granted, it's still intimidating. You only have like 45 seconds, 30 seconds to pick and ban. But additionally, with Event, you both pick and ban, so the enemy can see what you're going to bring, and we all know, everyone knows the fits. We as like commentators know the fits, the players back home, and then as well as the viewers sitting and watching, the fits are there and they're public. So I think it's definitely a lot new player friendlier, because then it's like what ships the enemy's bringing, and then what they can fit on it. So then it really boils down to how well can you fly the ship and how well can you sort of pick and ban with that. Because I know a lot of players say picking and banning is a huge part of the meta with Event compared to, say, the Alliance tournament.
So Volta and Exodunks are the only 2 teams that remain undefeated so far this evening, and thus so far in our Major League this season. That is about to change as they face off against each other, with one team ending up 2-0 and the other going down to 1-1. We will then be seeing after this match our final match of the day at 2100 Eve time, Provishots versus Offline. Both of those teams lost their 2 games, and that'll be it for this evening. I cannot believe we are already so far through the night. It feels like we have only just started, and of course we only just have. This is only the first weekend of our tournament series. The next set of games, I believe, is in fact in the coming weekend, before we have a little break and then having another 2-weekend stint to round out the finals around about Christmas time. I can see the teams warping into the arena now. We are moments away from the much anticipated match between Volta and Exodunks. So even though we are running a little bit early, I will hand over to our wonderful, glorious, brilliant, beautiful, handsome and intelligent commentators for this match. It is going to be Suetonia and Jintan.
Intro.
Okay.
Good evening, or good morning, I guess, if you're in Australia. We have Exodunks versus Volta. Volta in red. They bought the Apocalypse, the Extra, the Harbinger, Algus, and Griffin. They're at close range at 0 with the Harbinger and Apoc. The Algus has decided to come in at 10. The Logi, interestingly enough, is at 20, and the Griffin is far away as possible. Probably trying to survive as long as it can.
Yeah, one thing we're going to have to really look out for at the start of this match is the blue team, I believe. Let me just check my sheet, because we don't have it on our screen, ladies and gentlemen, which is Volta. That Hurricane and Talwar, if you combine them, they have a hell of a lot of alpha that's going to apply well to that Griffin. We're going to have to see right at the start of this match if they can get anything off. It looks like he's too far away, which is such a boon for this Exodunks team.
Yeah, I mean, even the Typhoon might do decently well. They do have the Vigil there with the double TPs. Also, another choice they might decide to do is, instead of running the Electronic Hardening link, they could maybe, for the first cycle, run the Electronic Superiority link to get a huge TP off from the Vigil if they want to make sure the Hurricane, Talwar, and Typhoon track the Griffin really well. Although that would leave them more open to being jammed for a while.
Yeah, I'm trying to use trigonometry to figure out how far these things are away from each other, but I can't do that kind of maths in my head. I'm not a true genius.
The Griffin is about 50 kilometers away from the Hurricane and the Vigil, so the Hurricane can probably get a decent volley off. I think the Griffin will probably be able to outrun the tower's missiles, but I think he's definitely not going to have a fun time with that Hurricane there.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. What other things should we be looking out for here, though, Suetonia? We've got that Typhoon, that Scythe, and obviously that Apocalypse, which is going to be able to do a ton of damage to the Scythe. What do you think the first primary here is going to be for Volta?
Yeah, I think Volta want to probably get rid of the Vigil, the tower, maybe the Hurricane. I'll be interested to see what they do, actually. They do have the Harbinger and the APOC, which will be able to maybe make that Scythe cause a lot of problems with that Scythe. The tower also probably can't really come in too close and apply to that Griffin like it probably wants to. We're seeing the target paint is actually coming on the Algus and the Harbinger instead of the Griffin. Looks like they're going for that Algus and instantly put into 2/3 of armor.
Look at that leveling game from Exodunks, knowing that Volta was thinking that they would put all their damage on the Griffin. They put all their damage on the Algos instead to try and trick them. That's amazing, amazing stuff from Exodunks. It didn't quite work, but that's the kind of mind games that I love in the Alliance tournament.
Yeah, we do see the Griffin is choosing to jam the Hurricane and Typhoon. Definitely want to get rid of as much DPS as they possibly can. The Vigil, it looks like the Harbinger is the primary now, and the Harbinger is actually pretty low. It's half armor. If they lose that info link, then that Griffin is suddenly going to become a lot less powerful.
Yeah, it's sitting there at half armor. It doesn't look like those reps are doing much to take him back up. You can see them there, just slowly lifting him, but that Typhoon's volley is so big, and it seems like the Hurricane isn't even really stopping. It's still putting some of its damage on that Algos, keeping the Execra busy, having to swap reps between that Algos and that Harbinger to try and keep his teammates alive, but it's not going to work for either of them.
Yeah,
they're both going really low here, and he's going to have to make the call now. Do I save the Harbinger or do I save the Algos? It looks like he's trying to put all his eggs on the Harbinger, but it's not working. Both of them are dying too quickly, and there we see the Vigil go out basically with no warning. He must have been volleyed by the Apocalypse, but this Harbinger in 10% armor here, holding on for dear life.
Yeah, but without that Vigil there, the Typhoon might not be able to apply full damage to that Harbinger anymore. Although, the Hurricane and Tower are definitely going to be able to pressure him. Losing that Vigil is a pretty big loss for them, I think, the Typhoon, because that's not going to be able to apply too well against that Afterburner only extra and the Griffin.
Look at how fast that Scythe is dropping as well. Half shields already. The Harbinger dipping into structure as the Scythe hits 20% there. He's going to have to pull range and fast, and even that might not be enough. This Apocalypse has such huge range, nearly 100 kilometers with Scorch. There's so little room to maneuver in this arena. The Harbinger still losing structure. The Griffin taking damage as well. Just everything everywhere right now. This is crazy. Oh, the Scythe goes down. The Griffin goes down.
Oh, this
the
is
Harbinger
crazy.
Really low.
Okay, so the Griffin is down. So it's Typhoon versus a half-dead, well, pretty much dead Harbinger, APOC, and Execra. Without the Griffin there, I think he was probably jamming the Typhoon for a long time. They're definitely probably going to be able to get rid of this Harbinger. And then it's APOC Execra versus Typhoon Hurricane Tower with no Logi. It's going to be a very tight match, I think.
Yeah, it looks like that Harbinger is just about holding. He's bleeding a little bit of structure here and there. I don't know if the Typhoon has enough tackle to really make it work if he gets on top of them. The Tower here taking a lot of damage as well. That's going to potentially interact with them later on in this match, but right now, I don't think they mind losing that Tower too much as long as they can get this Harbinger down.
Did someone just burn out gun? Oh, never mind. It looks like they were reloading. I just saw the attack bar like half from the Exodunk side.
Harbinger just oh, it's slipping to win. It's got like 2% structure. Oh, it finally goes down. It was so close there, though.
Yeah, so Tower traded for Harbinger, so now it's Typhoon and Hurricane versus APOC and Execra. I definitely think that they can kill the APOC through reps, probably, but I don't think the Typhoon's going to be able to apply to this Execra very well at all. Even if he has like precision cruise missiles or something, that it's going to take a long time. Looks like they are going for the APOC here, so it's a DPS race. Can this APOC kill this Hurricane before the Typhoon and Hurricane can take down the APOC?
Yeah, this is like the weirdest race situation I've ever seen. Honestly, I'd love to see this Typhoon just barrel in there just try and take some damage off the Apocalypse and make himself a bigger threat, because right now he's playing really, really conservatively. And that
Yeah.
Hurricane is eating it. He has a huge EM hole against that Apocalypse. He can't pull range fast enough. He's gonna have to pull off some miracle pilot work here to even start, mitigating damage.
Yeah, so he is much faster than that APOC. It should be noted that the APOC only has an afterburner, so he won't be able to chase the Hurricane. And Wasa QC and Systematic Chaos there, they do have more points because they have the battle cruise. They both have a battleship, but because Exodunks have the Hurricane instead of the Extra, if they just play it really passive and keep away, they can win if they can somehow keep away from this APOC for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
and that might be what they're going to try and do.
The Hurricane is now approximately 120 kilometers away from that Apocalypse, so he's in deep fall off for Scorch. That, as you said, that Apocalypse is going to struggle to catch up with him now. But why do you think they're going on that Apocalypse still? It's pretty obvious that they can't kill him. Should they not focus on the Execra here?
Oh, that Hurricane's like dangerously close to the arena.
Yeah, if he drifts out, that's super, that's 100% game.
Yeah, the Hurricane that went really close to the arena edge there. I guess he just turned around when he got to 115k.
Oh, we've got some banter in local with TikTok calling you out for calling out that Hurricane super close to the edge of the arena. We'll probably have some discussion on that later. It looks like the Hurricane is slowly pulling back some shields here. Things are going mental, but this is so slow and yet so incredibly careful between these teams. The Apocalypse and the Hurricane just trying to dance for position, keeping each other at as close range as they possibly can. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's still 3 minutes and 30 seconds. The APOC with the afterburner only, he is going to be able to push this Hurricane up against the edge. He's trying to shoot it. I think it's I'm seeing Aurora Crystal Oil. So it must be Radio actually. I believe Radio has a slightly better range than Scorch, which is probably why he's using it right now.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's doing much though. This is like the exact correct play from Exodunks. They're playing this. There's a saying in the fighting game community where playing something optimally is not the most fun way to play, and this really is not the stylish way to win, but it's a super strong way to win, and it's where they're maximizing their percentages here, really, aren't they? Not going in for that Execra, not going for the trade, just sitting at the edge of the arena and waiting the clock out.
Yeah, they unfortunately with the Typhoon there and the Vigil dead, they probably can't kill the Extra. It looks like they are maybe taking a pot shot at it now though. But it's gonna be interesting to see, can this APOC get close enough to the Hurricane to start pressuring it? The Hurricane is, obviously Systematic Chaos and Wasa QC, very good pilots along with Anna Gardet and Starfleet Commander. I know they're definitely going to be able to use the arena space to its full effectiveness. So right now the APOC is about 20 off the center of the arena, and the Hurricane is of course 115. So he's about 100 away from the APOC. With radio crystals, I believe the Hurricane is just barely in DPS range right now. The APOC is chipping down his shields again a little. He does have a few medium maintenance spots on him from his buddy in the Typhoon. But it looks like the APOC is slowly breaking him again. This is going to be very interesting. Can this APOC finish off the Hurricane in the next 2 minutes?
Yeah, this Hurricane might have to make a break for the other side of the arena at some point soon, and that's going to be a terrifying trek to do. You're going to have to burn, with your NWD on, taking maximum damage. Yeah, you can see that he's slowly taking damage here. Oh,
he's really close to the arena though. 1, 2, 3. He's out. He boundary violated.
No, the Hurricane boundary violates. Exodunks lose all of those percentages they worked so hard to get, and now this Typhoon has to run in there and in a minute kill an Execra, which he can barely apply to without any support. This is terrible for Volta. One mistake here from their optimal playstyle just costs them huge. Oh.
Yeah, Exodunks were actually the team that boundary violated, giving Volta the win. They're probably going to be the 2-1 team here. Oh, sorry, the only team so far to have 2 wins and 0 losses in the Major League so far.
God, that was disgusting. It looks like the Typhoon is taking. He's doing exactly what I suggested he do earlier on in this match and running in for that Executor, trying to kill it as fast as he can. Because if he can kill it in 30 seconds, it will be enough to force a draw. But I don't think it's going to be happening.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to apply. But definitely won't kill it in 20 seconds, even if he applies full DPS at this point. Jintan must be happy here seeing this Amar battleship kill the dirty Mimitar battleship along with a colonized Galanti logistic cruiser.
Colonized. You're one of a kind, Suetonia. We'll give you that. Yeah, with that, let's pass it back to the studio. A really slow and patient match here from both sides, wrapped up by like a minute of madness there at the end.
Another incredible match there. So close, well fought to the end by our two unbeaten teams, rounded off by one side chasing the edge of glory a little too closely, bowling straight past it and giving the victory to their opponents, leaving Volta as the only undefeated team in the tournament so far. And speaking of undefeated teams, we are shortly going to be finding out our winning team, I suppose. I'm not entirely sure what the adjective is there, but it is going to be Provishots versus Offline coming up in 10 minutes at 2100 Eve time. Both teams losing their matches. Provishots to Nasty Boys and Offline to Team Johnny. You do not want to end your first day at an 0-2, but you can guarantee that one of those two teams is going to end up there. Elise, the man of the hour, the man putting this all together. Do you want to tell us how hard it is to go from 0-2 to getting anywhere near to the top half the rest of the tournament? Or at least still busy. Never mind.
Elise's mic appears to not be working, judging by what's going on there in TeamSpeak.
Rip. He possibly too had his microphone go past the edge of glory in solidarity with the hurricane. Suetonia, do you want to explain to us a little bit about how the points work and the rules work?
Okay, so this is a league format. It's kind of like a round-robin tournament. Every team will play every team once. There's 8 teams in each league, in the minor and the major league. So each team will play 7 times. Every win that a team gets is worth 3 points. And if they get a dominating win, it's worth 4 points. So at the end of the season, when every team has played every other team 7 times, the total amount of points that they have will decide where they place in the league. And if there are any teams that are tied on points, so let's say maybe 2 teams both had 4 wins, 3 losses, and there wasn't any dominating wins or anything to differentiate their stats, it would be decided on the amount of points of ships they killed. So every ship kill in this format is very important.
And that is exactly how it's going to work. And we have 4 weekends of this coming through. I believe that includes the playoffs. Is that right?
The playoffs? You mean the Eventy Cup?
Yeah. No. Sorry. It's 4 weekends, and then we had the Eventy Cup before that.
Yeah. So we're doing this today. Obviously, we're doing it next week, and then there's a 4-week gap because of I believe the Anger Games are in 2 weeks' time, and then we also have the Eventy London meetup, and then also after that we have I believe Thanksgiving for our American fans out there. So don't really want to make teams have to log in in the middle of their family gatherings. So we will resume after next week. I believe December. And then we will finalize just before Christmas.
Awesome.
Also worth noting that Eve Saddam is next weekend, and I will be attending.
As will I, and I imagine it's going to be a rather eventful weekend.
Is it just going to be me on my own hosting matches with no commentators? That doesn't sound very good.
I mean, if you want me to call him from Eves to Dam, I will commentate matches whilst completely shit-faced.
I feel like we could
I
probably
can't
make this
promise
happen.
the like
You
actual
don't do
value
that
of it.
already?
I mean, I don't think they want to hear the vomit comet that is Jintan kind of barfing through everybody's headphones. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's the wisest decision.
Implying that I'll be drinking in Amsterdam and not partaking.
Amsterdam is also known for its lovely sights, which I'm sure Jim will be indulging in.
I
Yeah.
heard there are some very tall buildings that you can go up to and achieve great heights.
Yeah, I hear there's a lot of fleets going on, judging by the amount of purple lights as well.
I
Yes.
thought the blue lights are more your thing.
God.
Has something drastically changed in that city? Or are you guys just all colorblind? Like, I can't really tell.
I know. I've never
Oh,
been.
you poor innocent
Oh
child.
my god.
Okay, moving on, however, we should probably talk about our last match of the day. As I said, it is between Provi Shots and Offline. Rain, Sutonia, do you want to roll us through the bans here for the last match of the day?
Hell yeah. So we'll start off with Pravi shots, banning out the Prophecy, which we have seen actually quite often this season, and the Executor, which is the favored logistics armor cruiser. But they have picked, and then they also banned the Harbinger, which I believe we saw a little bit earlier. But then they picked the Thalia, the T2 logistics armor frigate, and then the Courser, the Mauler, which I'm not sure we've seen the Mauler before, but the DPS cruiser. And then they picked the Gnosis for their battle cruiser, which I believe is the first we've seen of it. And then the Hyperion, which has either been banned or picked almost every match.
Yeah, and Offline have chosen to ban the Augurer, another armor Logicruiser, which is probably why we're seeing the Thali and Deacon both picked up. They also banned the Griffin and the APOC. They've chosen to pick up the Deacon, the Dragoon, the Blackbird, an Ewok cruiser instead of the Mauler DPS cruiser. They also picked the Brutix and the Dominic, so more of a traditional side, but instead of seeing sort of the armor cruiser along with the tackle frigate, we've got like Deacon and Blackbird on their side.
I think this is the first time we've ever seen two of the Tech 2 logistics cruiser frigates in the same match.
Do you think this is going to push the teams to go to a more, almost tackle-focused style? Trying to get their Dragoons or their Coercers on top of those Deacons or Thalias and take out their opponent's sustain.
Well, one thing that's worth mentioning is that both the Gnosis and the Hyperion do have micro jump drives, so they could just, just blink in straight away and just try and tackle something. The Deacon is quite slow, although it does have a really nice buffer there. It has almost 20 KE HP before links. Of course, the Brutix that they have has a skirmishing, not an armor link, so it will be 20 KE HP.
So I can drop some elite boost tactics on you, in that because your lock is not broken when you use your MJD, it's good to fly a ship that has 100 kilometers lock range if you are flying a battleship, for example, because otherwise you jump on someone and then have to wait 3 years to lock them, by which time they've run away. But if you've locked them before you jump at them, you can hit that scram, smash that web, that grappler down, and hold them the instant you land.
Yeah. Should be noted that actually Eos Cannon, the captain of the Provi Shots team, has a huge amount of history with the Gnosis hull. He's actually well renowned for running a Gnosis-based fleet in Liu of running Hurricanes, as he personally prefers the hull for roaming. And he's so intimately familiar with it that he knows practically everything about it. If there's anyone who can pull off a Gnosis victory, it's Eos Cannon.
Is he responsible for their constant raise in price as they slowly die off then?
I believe he may have heavily invested in them. That's my only reasoning for why he runs them.
Fair enough. So we are but moments away from our last match of the day between our two teams that have gone 0-1 so far this evening. It is Provi Shots versus Offline, fighting to not be the team in bottom place at the end of the first day. I'm going to hand it over for the last time this evening to our wonderful, beautiful, brilliant commentators in our CSM reps present this evening, Sutonia and Jintan.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome for the third and final time to the Sphere of Destruction that EVE-NT has set up. In the red trunks, we have Provishots with a Hyperion, Gnosis, Thalia, Mala, and Coercer. Whereas in the blue trunks, we have Team Offline with a Dominix, Blackbird, Brutix, Deacon, and Dragoon. Now, both teams have come in again at 90 degrees to one another, but they're all spread out. Why don't you talk us through like the weird positionings we've got set up here?
So, interesting enough, it looks like Provishots do want to go for that aggressive MJD blink play because they brought both the Hyperion and Gnosis at 50. They will be able to blink towards the backline of the offline team. Additionally, they've also brought in the Mauler at 0, maybe hoping to use it as a heavy screening ship if Provishots decide to bring in their stuff at 0. And they've got the Thalia and the Coercer between the Mauler and the Gnosis and Hyperion, so it can apply reps to either one of them that gets shot. And offline have brought their Dominix a bit closer at 30k, but the rest of their ships are at 50.
Yeah, I'm expecting this red team to just rush towards the blue team. They've got so much close range DPS. That Hyperion, that Coercer, that Mala, and that Gnosis all working well for it. And there we see Team Blue predicting that and running away, but that's going to give the Gnosis and Hyperion time here to spool up their MJDs and align themselves correctly if they want to make that play.
Yeah, it looks like both the Gnosis and the Hyperion are charging towards them. They're not using their MJD just yet. It was a bit of a shallow angle, I believe 90 degrees, so I don't think they were quite perfectly 80 away or not, and they probably don't want to blink now that they're close to the center of the arena or they'll go out.
Also potentially worried about pulling a Volta and, evacuating the arena, which is, incredibly dangerous. We see the Gnosis taking some damage here, but he seems to be tanking perfectly fine. That, we should talk about, obviously, the resist profile for the Gnosis is perfectly flat. So he's going to be able to tank a lot of damage. Meanwhile, the Brutix of Cantonel is taking a little bit of damage as he burns away.
Yeah, another thing that's quite interesting too about the Provishots team is that they're going to suffer a bit from that Blackbird because they have a spread of races. The Gnosis has gravimetric sensor strength, the Hyperion and Thalia have the magnetometric sensor strength, and Thalia and Coercer have radar sensor strength, so the Rainbow Jammers on the Blackbird is going to at least be able to use one of each of all of them effectively on its target, aside from the Mimitar off-racial jammer.
Oh, it looks like the Gnosis of ES Cannon has been caught by the Dominix there. You can see the support of the blue team is just being pushed away there by the Hyperion, but he's going to have to turn in and start to put DPS down on that Dommy if he wants to save his Gnosis, potentially. Looks like Rep Drones are getting smart bombed off of EOS as well, so he's going to be in for a world of pain if they can properly apply to him.
Yeah, this Brutix is really close to the edge of the arena here at 102 kilometers. Deacon's at 106. So the Provishots team are pushing them to the background. It looks like there is a fight breaking out now between the Gnosis and the Coercer versus the Dominix, which is close range, screening off that Gnosis. Well, it looks like the Gnosis is tanking fine right now, but the Dominix has just cleared off the last set of rep bots on him.
Yeah, I think that Gnosis is okay right now. He's got a lot of buffer to play with. He can sit there and tank for a little bit, but that Mala getting caught is very worrying. That's going to be two things that are splitting that Hyperion's attention. Does he go for whoever's tackling the Mala and try and clear her off? Or does he go and try and brute force down the Dominix? It looks like he's caught the Blackbird instead, and that could be crucial here.
Yeah, the Hyperion has a long-range grappler on him right now. He's not quite that slow. He's still going 1.4k a second. But the Hyperion is doing a lot of DPS with Null.
The grapple just dropped. Was he jammed? It doesn't look like it. But he's still taking a little bit of damage there, but that might just be drones. I'm trying to figure out what's happening there, but the Gnosis is in half armor here and slowly slipping down. They need to make a play to save their Gnosis, or they're going to be trading basically their battlecruiser, their links, and a ton of their damage for nothing.
Yeah, that Blackbird is the Blackbird doesn't have the Hyperion jam because the Hyperion is shooting him with Null right now. That's where the damage is coming from, as well as a set of Valkyries on him. That Blackbird goes down, the Provishots team will do a lot more DPS. It seems like the jams right now are spread between the Mauler, Hyperion, and the Gnosis. They're not trying to jam the Thalia out at all, so Thalia still has full reps on that Gnosis, but it looks like the Gnosis is slowly breaking. He's just at his breaking point right now.
Yeah, it looks like that Blackbird is fine. He's repping through all of that Hyperion damage, and now this Hyperion is super far away from his friend, the Gnosis, separated from the whole of the team, really. And it looks like the Thalia is even burning away from the Gnosis, accepting that he's gonna be dead here and trying to make himself more useful later on in this fight so that he doesn't get caught by that Dominix. This is really troubling for Provisiots.
It's also worth noting that we haven't seen the MJD from the Gnosis yet, and he could MJD out here. He's not scrammed. He could MJD out, maybe try and rep up again. He isn't trying to use the MJD right now, but that is an option he could try to do to escape here.
Yeah, this is a really weird tactic. We don't expect.
And there it is. He just fired up his MJD. He's gonna get out here, I think, and then he can like chill out, maybe come back in when the attention isn't on him anymore.
Wow, what an insane play there. He took up so much time from the blue team, and whilst they might be able to get back on top of him, it looks like the Thalia is going to be free to burn away. That Coercer did get caught for it, but I think that's a reasonable trade. You don't mind that, considering how much time it took up. And look how far the Hyperion has pushed away the Blackbird and the Deacon from the rest of the fleet, whilst they were busy with that Gnosis. Baited on a free Gnosis, as you might say.
Yeah, there are still some Hobgoblin 1s on him that are doing a bit of damage to him, actually. If they don't get rid of these Hobgoblins, if he doesn't start shooting them off of him, he might actually go down to them eventually over time. The Hyperion here is now kind of stranded. It looks like he MJD'd. Oh, he just blinked again.
He blinked on top, right on top of the Blackbird as well. He should be in range for a grapple here. What is this mayhem? This is incredible. Yeah, there you see, grappler on the Blackbird. This might be a turning point in the fight.
Yeah, it looks like the Thalia made the right call there. I guess the Gnosis, Thalia, and Coercer are kind of...
Blackbird wed by the Gnosis! That's in half structure! They're going to be able to kill this Blackbird here, but they've traded so much positioning for it. That Coercer going down as well. The Thalia needs to catch up with them. He's being heavy neutered by that Dommy, and that's the only thing keeping him from getting to his friends there. And now we're seeing the blue team here, the offline team, starting to move encircle these really low ships, especially that Gnosis. He needs to get reps and fast, or he's going to go down even after all this time. But they quickly snipe off a Dragoon as he moves into position. Kills going left and right here. Reps back on the Gnosis. He might even be able to get some armor back, potentially.
Yeah, it looks like the newts on the Thalia are hurting quite a bit. Couldn't quite save the Gnosis, but they did. Provisiots did manage to kill the Dragoon. So now it's Hyperion, Thalia, Maulers versus Dominix, Brutix, and Deacon, and that Brutix is already quite low.
Yeah, like Provisiots doing really well out of here. There's no tackle on that Brutix. I completely tell a lie. There is now a web on that Brutix. The Mala going in for that hard tackle, getting grappled, whilst the Thalia is getting grappled and neutered. So the real question is, can that Thalia drift out of Dommy range whilst they kill that Brutix? If he can, then Provi has a huge advantage with the only tackle ship left on the field, and the Hyperion, which is just slightly better than the Dominix in most ways, really.
Yeah, I don't think the Dominix is able to break the Hyperion just purely because the Hyperion also has that smart bomb too. With the Brutix down, I think this is firmly in the hands of Provisiots. Provisiots do have the Mauler still up too, which is also, you know, really big brick, great at tackling, pretty good DPS even though it is quite slow. It's definitely going to be able... I think the Mauler can probably stay up against the lone Dominix if the Hyperion's helping out by clearing drones with the smart bomb and the Thalia's on him.
Yeah, Team Offline's Deacon was there briefly grappled, but it didn't quite stick. He was obviously right at the edge of it. So now the question is, does Provisiots go in for the kill, try and finish off the rest of the team in that 2 minutes, or do they just play it safe and pull away and then make a trick shot if they can? You know, we've seen how good they are with these MJDs. I hope we see that again. That was some of the craziest stuff I've seen.
Yeah, I think Provisiots definitely want the points. I mean, they were down one game coming into this game, but they pulled it back. If they can kill this Dominix in the next 1 minute 30, then it'd be great for them to pick up those 5 points in the league.
Yeah, it looks like they are pushing in now. The Hyperion is right on top of him, and the Mala is also, taking up a tackle position on him, although slowly drifting away here by the looks of things. He is grappled as well by that Dominix. So some really good control play here, actually, from Team Offline, making sure that their Dominix isn't taking too much damage that they don't have to.
Yeah, they almost will probably not kill anything else, but they really want to keep that Dominix alive so they don't give up those 5 points to Provi shots, because they're going to be 0-2. They're going to need every single point they can get going on throughout the league.
Yeah, they did pick up. They might be able to make it 1-1 here, though, and that's not a bad position to be in going into the second week. Yeah, it looks like that Dominix is holding fine. Do you think this Hyperion should try and tackle down that Thalia, or at least push him? Sorry, that Deacon, and at least push him off? Or is the best play just to sit here and try and burn through all of those Dominix charges? Not that it really matters here. Only 15 seconds left on the clock. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to get a domination victory here.
Well, they wouldn't get a domination victory anyway because they lost the Gnosis and the Coercer.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
But I mean, they would still get the 5 points in case they were tied. In terms of league points with people, every ship kill that they get counts towards their ships killed, which would settle any tiebreaker.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that looks like out of time. Some of the craziest, probably one of the most crazy fights we've seen so far here. People flashing and blinking and MJDing all over the arena. We're never quite sure what to call it. And somehow pulling it out, even though we thought that they were in super big trouble.
Yeah, the Gnosis hero of the match, I think.
Yeah.
And we'll throw it back to Apophany in the studio.
What a match to end our day on there. The double T2 Logifrig battle, dueling out with the Dommy, the Hyperion, everything going on. Jake, that was a crazy match, as I said, to end our day on. What were your thoughts on that match? Any nice bits you picked out?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jin touched on it earlier. The Gnosis flown by EOS really made that match happen. I mean, if it wasn't for him surviving so long, I think the match could have taken a completely different turn. That being said, though, it also comes down to some of the MJD play we saw. Landing on top of that Blackbird and getting the grapple was imperative, and I think that if those two moves hadn't been made, then the match could have gone very differently.
Yeah, Rain, what about you? What were your thoughts on that match?
I'm glad we finally got to see the double T2 Logi frigates in action. I thought that was really well done. I thought the Thalia, along with that Gnosis, did pretty well. But no, I really wanted to see that, and I'm glad teams are being more open to something besides just the cruiser Logi. So seeing that T2 frig Logi was really nice.
Well, and with that, it is the end of our day here at the first day of the eVenti Winter 2017 season Major Leagues. Oh, it's a big, long title. Massive thanks to all the commentators that have showed up. That is Jintan, Rain, Sutonia, Jake Meister, our man Elise Randolph running the batting tool and refereeing, having all that held down. We've got Equalizer on the tech, making sure everything runs. Have I forgotten anyone?
Yourself.
Yeah, you forgot yourself. One of the most important parts of the entire show, Apophany.
I'm the guy that occasionally tells people that it's their turn to talk instead of being the one filling up all the talking like I used to do. They've managed to find a way to make me not talk for an hour on end and not let anyone else have a room, because it's my job to let other people talk. So yeah, go me too. Okay, so really congratulations to all the teams that competed tonight, even if they won or lost or whatever's going on. We cannot wait to see them in more matches next week as they hunker down, take the data from these tests and move forward. So from me and from everyone else, the eVenti team here for the majors, we will see you next weekend on Saturday with Ithaca Hawk for the minors and myself once again for weekend 2 of the majors. See you next time.